Chapter 1061. Why do you say that? Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile. The young woman replied, the Chang God tribe is filled with resentment towards the lawless region. They're just enduring silently. Zhou Xuanji became even more curious. He looked at the girl closely. Could it be that she didn't belong to the Chang God tribe? Of course I'm from the Chang God race. However, my status is very high, so I can say whatever I want. They wouldn't dare to blame me. The young woman giggled. She walked up to Zhou Xuanji and circled around him. Tisk TSK. You're probably not even 20,000 years old yet. Your soul is really tender. You've already attained the eternal realm at such a young age. Amazing. The girl continued to smile as she looked at Zhou Xuanji in amazement. Zhou Xuanji was very calm and was not affected by her gaze. Do I leave now? He asked. It better be so. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji began to weigh the pros and cons. The lawless region was so vast that he didn't necessarily have to learn about it from the Chang God tribe. Although this girl could be lying, it wouldn't do him any harm to leave now. After thinking about it, Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, thank you for the reminder. I'll take my leave now. He turned around and prepared to leave. Remember, if you manage to come into contact with the Supreme's opportunity, you must not expose it no matter what. Also, do not bring it near the Eternal God Gate. Something terrible will happen. The young lady said seriously. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and laughed. He waved his hand and directly entered spiritless mode, leaving the Chang God race's world. As soon as he left, the face of the old man appeared in the sky above the courtyard. The girl raised her head and giggled at the old man. The old man frowned. He sighed worriedly and said, why? The girl looked up and said, the eternal gods should stay far away from the outside world. This is good for both of us. Have we not gotten used to our current lives? You don't understand. The old man faintly said. After he finished speaking, his face disappeared. All clansmen, listen up. Chase after Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji and capture him at all costs. The old man's voice rang out once more, resounding through the entire world. There was a loud bang. The giant city shook as waves of boundless and terrifying aura erupted. Within the space-time kaleidoscope, Zhou Xuanji heard the 30,000-meter-tall elder's voice and shook his head. It seemed like the divine race could not be trusted. He immediately sped up, and the kaleidoscopes around him turned pale. It looked like they had sunk into nothingness, but in reality, his speed had already reached its limit. Even an eternal existence would find it difficult to catch up to him. After all, he had attained the eternal realm in the spiritless state. After flying for several hours, Zhou Xuanji exited the godly state, and he appeared in a vast sea of stars. At first glance, it looked a bit like the Milky Way. Very beautiful. Zhou Xuanji spread out his will to examine this starry sea. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It looked like there weren't any eternal gods around. Zhou Xuanji let Jiang Shui out, and she asked him what had happened out of curiosity. He did not hide it from her. After listening to him, Jiang Shui frowned. Jiang Shui sighed and said, next time, don't be so rash and enter deep into the enemy's territory alone. If it wasn't for the reminder from a noble, you would be in deep trouble now. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and smiled. Don't worry, they can't trap me. My eternal realm is for escaping. It's better to be careful. Nothing is absolute. Okay, I'll listen to you, okay? That's more like it. The two of them chatted and laughed as they advanced. This time, Zhou Xuanji had no specific goal. He just wanted to look around and understand the lawless region. To be on the safe side, Zhou Xuanji split out hundreds of avatars in all directions and kept a distance from them. If anything happened, he would know in advance. The lawless region was much more dangerous than the endless universe. The starry sky was filled with space-time storms. Such storms contained power that was not inferior to the imperishable realm. Once swept into them, most living beings would be destroyed in both body and soul. With Zhou Xuanji's protection, Jiang Shui could easily travel through the space-time storms without being affected. Zhou Xuanji discovered a formless will hidden in the depths of the space-time storms. Eternal will. Could these space-time storms be left behind by an eternal existence? Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. The space-time storms were everywhere. It should not be intentional. Could it be that the eternal existence had already fallen, and his will was scattered and wreaking havoc in the lawless region? Zhou Xuanji felt that this was most likely the case. An eternal existence must have fallen because they encountered a more powerful force. Zhou Xuanji thought about it deeply and immediately shuddered. How powerful was the lawless region? If there's no other way, let's go back. At least the great Tao is protecting us, Jiang Shui said. She could see the fear in Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Zhou Xuanji was rarely so fearful of someone. Having heard her, Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said with a smile, "That's better. You can return to my soul and cultivate first. I found something and want to take a look." Jiang Shui nodded hesitantly. Zhou Xuanji stored her into his soul world. Then, he entered the spiritless mode and disappeared. The next moment, Zhou Xuanji stopped in a pitch-black space. He raised his hand and grabbed. A black crystal appeared in his hand. "What's this?" he mumbled curiously. He probed into the black crystal with his eternal will. Boom! A violent energy exploded and resisted Zhou Xuanji's eternal will. He opened his eyes abruptly in shock. Such a powerful energy. He immediately began collecting the black crystals. He could sense that there were many more black crystals like this around him. A while later, an aura came swiftly, and he looked back in shock. His expression turned strange. The person who came was someone he knew. Gu Juejiao. Why did this guy appear here? Gu Juejiao noticed Zhou Xuanji too. He stopped immediately with a deep frown. "Zhou Xuanji," he said with gritted teeth. Murderous intent shot out from his eyes. He could not wait to attack immediately, but he knew that Zhou Xuanji had already surpassed him. Back when Gu Zun bullied him, he mentioned Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji did not know that Gu Zun sold him out. "Why are you here?" He looked at Gu Juejiao and asked. "I should be the one asking you." Gu Juejiao snorted coldly. He was thinking about how to kill Zhou Xuanji. "I came to the lawless region to take a look. I realized that the eternal gods here are all very powerful. We can't compare to them at all." Zhou Xuanji sighed in amazement. At the same time, he reminded Gu Juejiao that they could only resist the lawless region together. Gu Juejiao's face turned even more unsightly. He seemed to have thought of something. He clenched his fists, and his body trembled. "Let's work together." He stared at Zhou Xuanji and asked with a deep voice, "How? I'm here to find the sovereign's serendipity. Let's work together and share it." "Can we share the sovereign's serendipity?" "Of course." Back then, Gu Zun shared the sovereign's serendipity with others, which is why the lawless region exists today. Or else, with Gu Zun's power back then, the lawless region would not have appeared. Chapter 1062. Sharing the Supreme Opportunity. Zhou Xuanji fell into hesitation. Should he work with Gu Juejiao? He felt that Gu Juejiao would not be so sincere. However, he was in the eternal realm, while Gu Juejiao was just an undying existence. The difference in their realms was like heaven and earth, so he didn't need to be afraid. "All right, do you know where the supreme opportunity is?" Zhou Xuanji promised and asked. Gu Juejiao's eyes flickered. "Yes, have you heard of the Eternal God Gate?" Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji turned and left. It quickly disappeared into the depths of the universe. Gu Juejiao quickly caught up with him and asked anxiously, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving so suddenly?" "You're crazy. I don't want to get involved with the Eternal God Gate," Zhou Xuanji said with a deep voice. He thought that Gu Juejiao had found some serendipity. In the end, it was the Eternal God Gate. He felt like he had been played. Gu Juejiao panicked and quickly advised, "The Eternal God Gate is not as dangerous as the rumors say. Qin Zun came from the Eternal God Gate. He told me that there are countless fortunes hidden in the Eternal God Gate. As long as we kill our way out, even mortals can become immortal or even stronger." Zhou Xuanji stopped and asked in astonishment, "Sovereign Qin is from the boundless universe?" Gu Juejiao nodded. "That's right. He entered the Eternal God Gate by mistake 7 billion years ago and recently came out to make a name for himself." 7 billion years ago? That was a really long time ago. Zhou Xuanji was not tempted. Compared to Gujuagio, he trusted the fire god more. In any case, I'm not going. If you want to go, go by yourself. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and rejected again. He passed by Gujuagio and continued to move forward. Gujuagio gritted his teeth and cursed. Zhou Xuanji, you coward. Are you that scared? Zhou Xuanji ignored him and continued ahead. Gujuagio had no choice but to leave. Zhou Xuanji did not take this episode to heart. Since Gujuagio wanted to die, then let him go, just as the two of them separated. A horrifying aura descended suddenly and enveloped Zhou Xuanji. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji, where do you dare to run to? A violent cry came, and Zhou Xuanji's soul was shaken. An eternal existence. Zhou Xuanji immediately activated the sword fusion technique, and his entire body shone with a brilliant silver radiance. The eternal will fused into his soul, and he immediately entered the spiritless state, arriving in a pale white space-time. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him. That person was tall and wore silver chainmail. He stood on two dragon-shaped red clouds, and behind him were raging flames. His entire body gave off a great pressure, and the light he gave off made it impossible for others to look directly at his face. The Chang'an tribe? Zhou Xuanji asked. Two swords of light appeared in his hands as he prepared to fight. That's right, I am the second elder of the Chang'an clan. Zhou Xuanji, come back with me, or else you will suffer. The other party replied in a domineering tone, not allowing Zhou Xuanji to refute. Second elder? Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows. The Chang'an clan's foundations were quite deep. Sorry, I will make you feel very uncomfortable, Zhou Xuanji said with a smile. Although he was always smiling now, he was never afraid of battle. In fact, he yearned for it. Great timing. He had never fought an eternal existence before. Boom! Zhou Xuanji's aura exploded, and numerous swords of light appeared in the air. The dense swords inundated the second elder of Chang deity. The second elder of the deity Chang scoffed. If that's the case, then I'll show you the power of a second-layer will. After he spoke, he charged out of the sea of swords. Zhou Xuanji moved instinctively. Just when he appeared in another place, the second elder of the deity Chang appeared behind him. At the same time, so fast, Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. He slashed backward. The second elder's right palm landed on his body. Boom! The silver radiance on Zhou Xuanji's body exploded immediately. His body was destroyed, and only his soul was left. His expression changed drastically, and he immediately activated the exterminating divine eyes. The exterminating divine light swept out, but it was a pity that it did not hit the second elder. The second elder was extremely fast. It could even be said that he could predict Zhou Xuanji's movements. Every time Zhou Xuanji moved, the second elder could follow him almost at the same time. This guy can predict my movements. Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. His opponent was a second-layer eternal will. Speed might be one of the reasons. Prediction might be the second reason. Zhou Xuanji's eternal will was only in the spiritless mode. He could not gain any advantage against the second elder at all. No, if this continued, he would surely be defeated. Zhou Xuanji immediately created billions of doppelgangers that covered the pale space-time. These doppelgangers charged towards the second elder of the divine Chang clan. The second elder laughed mockingly and destroyed the doppelgangers with ease. The Sword Emperor is only SOS so. I can't see any sharpness in your sword. The second elder mocked. He was in a good mood. As long as he could capture Zhou Xuanji, the Chang'an clan would have a chance to slaughter their way into the boundless universe. They could finally go home. At this moment, thunder clouds suddenly condensed above his head. He looked up, but did not sense any threat. Zhou Xuanji himself charged over with his sword and drew his attention away. Ancestral Dragon Sword. A giant silver dragon appeared. Its entire body was made of eternal will. It was indestructible and unstoppable. The second elder laughed with disdain. He turned his palm and destroyed the ancestral dragon that Zhou Xuanji had transformed into. Before him, Zhou Xuanji was so vulnerable. The difference between a first-layer eternal will and a second-layer eternal will made one despair. But Zhou Xuanji did not despair. He appeared quickly with a peculiar smile. "You can still smile?" the second elder asked curiously. Zhou Xuanji pointed at the second elder's head. He looked up. The thunderclouds billowed, and he could vaguely see a silhouette materializing. He shook his head with a smile and said, "Such tricks cannot threaten me. Any power that was not at the eternal stage could not hurt him." And Zhou Xuanji was much weaker than him. "Really?" Zhou Xuanji said with a faint smile. Boom! The thunderclouds exploded suddenly. A horrifying silhouette descended and slammed its palm toward the second elder. The second elder's expression changed drastically. He wanted to dodge, but realized that he could not move at all. "This is Guzun. How can it be?" he roared, his voice filled with fear. In the next second, he was forced to his knees by Guzun's palm. Destiny Manifestation Technique. Zhou Xuanji used his eternal will to activate this technique. The destiny calamity that he created was also at the eternal level. "So your death calamity is Guzun," he said in amazement. This meant that Guzun could be revived in the future. The second elder struggled with all his might. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and cursed furiously. "Dispel this technique, or else I will slaughter your sword Emperor Divine Court when I enter the northern boundless realm." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at him and said unpleasantly, "Be smart and don't talk nonsense. Just wait for your death." Guzun swung his palm again, faster and faster. The palms landed one after another. There was no shocking attack, and there was still some distance between them. The second elder's aura plummeted rapidly under the impact of the formless energy. His body was destroyed, and his soul was on the verge of collapse. In a chapter. Chapter 1063. The Eternal Will's Fate Manifestation Technique was extremely powerful. When Second Elder Chang Shun's death tribulation was that of a prime sovereign, the outcome was already decided. No matter how hard Second Elder Chang Shun struggled, he could not resist Guzun's terrifying pressure. Zhou Xuanji looked at Second Elder Chang Shun from afar. He suddenly thought of his World Buddha art. Using the eternal will to activate world internalization, would it be able to absorb the eternal will of the Changshin Second Elder? As soon as he thought of this, he immediately took action. He quickly flew behind the Second Elder of Deity Chang and pierced the Second Elder's soul body with his sword. He began absorbing Second Elder Chang Shun's eternal will. Boom! The Second Elder's eternal will clashed with Zhou Xuanji's eternal will. Zhou Xuanji frowned. As expected, it didn't work. In the end, the eternal will was eternal and indestructible. It cannot be absorbed. Every eternal will have to be cultivated on its own. Zhou Xuanji could only back off helplessly. He suddenly thought of a treasure. He raised his right hand, and the main Emperor door appeared out of thin air. Since he couldn't kill Second Elder Chang Shun, he would suppress him and make him stay in the main Emperor's gate forever. The primary Emperor door was a treasure left behind by the founding master. How could it not suppress the divine Chang Second Elder? Zhou Xuanji used the eternal will and directly pulled the Changshin Second Elder into the main Emperor's door. To prevent any accidents, he once again used fate manifestation on the other side of the door. Second Elder Chang Shun continued to be tortured. "I'm sorry, but you'll have to endure Guzun's persecution from now on." The corner of Zhou Xuanji's lips curled up, and he laughed in high spirits. So what if he had the second layer eternal will? So what if he was an undying old monster? He left quickly. In the coming days, the Chang God tribe would definitely try their best to capture him. Just as well. In any case, he didn't have a target. It would be best if he could imprison the entire Chang God tribe within the main Emperor's door. Inside the resplendent palace, the 10,000-foot old man sat on his throne. He frowned, and his eyes were filled with anger. Second Elder's aura has been cut off. He's either dead or suppressed in some isolated space. The one who spoke was a man in silver armor. The silver armor on his body seemed to be embedded with countless stars, and his entire body emitted a resplendent light. The 100,000-foot old man did not reply and remained silent. The silver-armored man didn't say anything else. He waited for the old man to speak. After a long while, the old man sighed. If that's the case, then let's use the all-illuminating mirror. The omniscient, life-illuminating mirror. The silver-armored man's expression changed drastically, and he asked in a deep voice, "Do you really want to do this? Many of our clansmen will be sacrificed, and our location will be exposed. Although it has been peaceful for countless years, our blood feud still exists." The old man shook his head and did not say anything. The silver-armored man could only sigh, bow, and leave. Looking at his back, the old man's eyes turned cold, and he muttered, "We have waited for too long. If we don't go back, so what if we have an eternity? It's not as good as 100 years for mortals." The silver-armored man shuddered and disappeared from the hall. Zhou Xuanji slowly walked through a universe filled with ever-changing multicolored lights. Looking at the beautiful sea of stars, he could not help but feel that the lawless zone was truly a wondrous place. There were places scarier than hell, but there were also places as beautiful as a dream. Apart from the Chang God tribe, he hadn't encountered any other races or even any other living beings. He felt as if he had arrived in a dead universe. There was a macro world here, but there were no living creatures in the macro world. This was a place of banishment. No wonder the eternal god race wanted to leave the lawless zone and explore the boundless world. Perhaps it was because this place could not nurture living creatures. Could it be that the number of eternal god race will only decrease and not increase? Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. He felt that it was highly possible. Perhaps this was the reason why the eternal god race hid. It was impossible for the eternal god race to be completely harmonious. But in order to reduce casualties, they distanced themselves from each other, causing the lawless zone to be so cold and desolate. Just as Zhou Xuanji was sighing in amazement, a ray of golden light swept toward him from behind. He immediately took out his might sword to block. The might of the golden light was absorbed by the might sword. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt as if something was sucked out of his body. What is this? He furrowed his brows in confusion. The ray of golden light left as quickly as it came. It did not deal any damage at all. He suddenly had a bad feeling. He immediately entered spiritless mode and left quickly. After entering spiritless mode, his sense of unease grew. He felt as if he was being watched by countless eyes. It seemed that the golden light was not simple. Could it be some kind of tracking technique? He thought curiously. This was the only possibility. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly swept toward him from behind. Zhou Xuanji looked back. The Chang God race's 30,000-meter-tall elder was already charging toward him. This great elder had hundreds of clansmen behind him. All of them gave off powerful auras, and the weakest was not inferior to Zhong Ji from the Eastern Boundless Royal family. What a powerful foundation, Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. He immediately used the sword fusion technique, and his speed increased tremendously. These people had survived from ancient times, so it was normal for them to be proficient in spiritless mode. However, it was still not enough for them to keep up with Zhou Xuanji's speed. Soon, the 30,000-meter-tall elder pulled away from his clansmen, but there was still a long distance between him and Zhou Xuanji. Although they could see each other, in this pale space of space-time, every step they took represented the passage of time. A distance of 300 meters was a distance that even immortals and gods could not reach. This brat is so fast. The 30,000-meter-tall elder thought to himself with a frown. Could it be that Zhou Xuanji had used spiritless mode as his eternal will? That was impossible. Since ancient times, very few people have been able to do this. The spiritless mode was the pinnacle of space-time, and it was the pinnacle of speed. How could one reach the eternal realm? Zhou Xuanji tilted his head and glanced at him. The Great Elder is indeed the Great Elder. He's much faster than the Second Elder, Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. It was very difficult to use the fate manifestation technique on the 30,000-meter-tall elder. After all, this fellow had a group of clansmen behind him, and many of them were at the eternal realm. Once he stopped to fight with the 30,000-meter-tall elder, the others would quickly catch up. Zhou Xuanji did not think too much and directly activated the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra and the Tao of Annihilation. Boom! His aura changed abruptly, and his speed rose sharply. In the blink of an eye, he had pulled away from the 30,000-meter-tall elder. This aura, how is this possible? The 30,000-meter-tall elder's expression greatly changed, and he looked in the direction that Zhou Xuanji had left in shock. He suddenly stopped. His clansmen all caught up. The silver-armored man asked, "Why aren't we chasing?" The 30,000-meter-tall elder's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He gritted his teeth and said, "No, we have to give up on chasing him." "What? Give up?" The silver-armored man was immediately enraged, and the other clansmen also looked furious. In order to use the omniscient life-illuminating mirror, they had sacrificed their clansmen, and they were going to give up right after catching up. Chapter 1064. After escaping from the Chang'an clan, Zhou Xuanji continued to move at full speed. When he arrived at the other side of the lawless zone, he exited the godless state. He turned around and murmured in surprise. He didn't give chase. Could it be that he knows about the scripture of creation and the path of annihilation? That was the only possibility. Otherwise, if the 10,000-meter-old man wanted to chase after him, he would definitely be able to tangle with him for a long time. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and jumped into the absolute time realm. Taking out the Master Emperor door, Zhou Xuanji began to summon the Founder Lord Spirit. After a long while, the primogenitor's spirit flew out and asked unwillingly, "What is it?" Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, "Do you know the Chang'an race?" "I don't know him." "Really?" "Yes." "What kind of attitude is that?" "I've been protecting you." "Huh." Looking at the disdainful primogenitor Lord Spirit, Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows, feeling somewhat displeased. This fellow was really taking advantage of them. Zhou Xuanji coldly harumphed and asked, "Since you don't want to see me, I'll let you out. You are the progenitor master, and as long as you reveal your identity, countless creatures will worship you." When the primogenitor's spirit heard this, he was instantly angered. He coldly said, "Smelly brat, I have done you a favor. You sealed me, and now you want to abandon me?" As expected, this guy couldn't leave him. Zhou Xuanji guessed that there was something in the boundless universe that the Founder's spirit feared. Or perhaps there was something on him that the Founder's spirit was looking forward to, making it temporarily unwilling to abandon him. No matter which one it was, Zhou Xuanji could threaten the primogenitor's spirit. "I just don't want you to stay in my body. You call it a seal? You can fly out of the main emperor's door at any time, and I won't interfere," Zhou Xuanji said as he harumphed. Facing the enraged spirit of the progenitor lord, he definitely could not cower. The progenitor lord's spirit fell silent. After a long while, "I remember that the Chang god tribe used to be the weakest of the god tribe, nothing to be afraid of. However, after countless years, they have become more and more powerful." Its words were filled with disdain toward the Chang god tribe. "Over the long years, I have seen the rise and fall of countless god tribes in the Emperor's Gate. In terms of strength, there are at least 100 god tribes that are stronger than the Chang god tribe. They hide in the depths of the lawless region, and in order to avoid the myriad tribulations, they have sealed their own tribes," the primogenitor's spirit continued. "More than 100? Zhou Xuanji was stunned. The Chang god race had such a powerful foundation, but they were ranked so low among the god races. He suddenly thought of Guzun. Just how powerful was Guzun? He was actually able to suppress so many races, isolating the god race in the cracks of the boundless universe for eternity. How many layers of eternal will did he have? Humph. The scripture of defiance of the Constitution and the Tao of Annihilation are the basic rules that make up everything you know. As long as you cultivate them to the extreme, you can destroy the God clan with a single thought. Back then, that kid Guzun was too soft-hearted and ended up dying, burying endless trouble for future generations. The ancestor spirit's words did not resonate with Zhou Xuanji. What Zhou Xuanji wanted to know was something else. He asked, The god race wants to replace the endless universe? There are no prime sovereigns in this world. Am I the only one with the potential to stop them? Countless years of grievances. Once the god race stepped into the boundless universe, only heaven knew what would happen. Now, he was the only one who had mastered the Constitution, defying creation scripture and the Tao of extermination. But his power was far from enough to stop the god race's invasion. You're thinking too much. You're still far from it. Don't worry. The god race is destined to be destroyed. Your mission now is to develop your sovereign's serendipity. If possible, go find other sovereigns' serendipity. The ancestor spirit pointed out the direction for Zhou Xuanji. Sovereign's serendipity. Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. He suddenly thought of the legendary sword he had obtained before. Endless Annihilation Emperor Sword. That sword had the power to destroy the endless universe. It was a pity that it had not been born yet and was still being nurtured. Every year, he would obtain legendary swords. But the grades of most legendary swords could no longer affect his power because he was too powerful. Occasionally, some legendary swords would attract his attention, but he was too lazy to take out most of them and left them in the supreme storage. How to develop the sovereign's serendipity, or rather, how to develop the supreme legendary sword system. Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. The ancestor spirit said meaningfully, "Your enemy is far more terrifying than the god race you're facing now. They're invincible." Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji looked up and asked in surprise, "What do you mean? Why do I have to face such an enemy?" "This is your destiny. Anyone who strives to become the most powerful will face it. My original body faced it too," the ancestor spirit replied. The ancestor faced it too? Could it be the ancestor spirit fell because he failed to challenge that existence? Zhou Xuanji's heart trembled. Even the ancestor spirit, who had created everything, could not compare to that mysterious existence. Naturally, he had no confidence. Without comparison, he would not know the difference. He could not even defeat the Chang God race, let alone Guzun. "Why? Are you afraid?" the ancestor spirit asked mockingly. Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown, "I'm not afraid. I just don't understand why it's like this. My destiny? Does it refer to the Constitution defying creation sutra and the Tao of annihilation?" The ancestor spirit nodded. Just when Zhou Xuanji wanted to continue asking, an aura quickly flew toward him. He immediately stored the ancestor spirit into the master emperor's door. He closed his eyes and sensed the aura. This was the absolute time realm. How could there be other auras? Soon he sensed the aura. It was a beam of light. It lingered in the darkness outside the absolute time realm as though it was trying to find the entrance to the absolute time realm. "What's that?" Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. He saw a creature that looked like a white dragon in the beam of light. It was less than a meter long and was covered in white scales that glowed with a faint purple light. Its eyes were very bright, like two pearls that contained countless stars. Zhou Xuanji hesitated a little before jumping out and grabbing the white dragon. Swoosh! The white dragon suddenly moved, directly piercing through his chest, creating a hole. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. He looked down at his chest with a strange expression. "Such power! Why are you grabbing me?" An ethereal voice came from behind, and Zhou Xuanji turned to look at it. The white dragon tilted its head with confusion in its eyes. It looked very innocent. Just when Zhou Xuanji was about to reply, the ancestor spirit's voice came in his mind. "Stay away from it. Hurry." He forgot to seal the master emperor's door so that the ancestor spirit could still communicate with him. Even the ancestor spirit was so afraid. Zhou Xuanji immediately jumped into spiritless mode and fled. He was confused as he fled. What was that little guy's background? "Where are you going?" The white dragon's voice came, which sent chills down Zhou Xuanji's spine. He turned around immediately and realized that the white dragon was following him. How could it be? He was fleeing at full speed. Chapter 1065. In the pale space where time stood still, Zhou Xuanji looked at the white dragon spirit and was covered in cold sweat. He did not know what to say. This thing was even more terrifying than the elders of the Chang God tribe. The white dragon blinked, looked at him and asked, "Your aura feels very familiar. Did you cultivate some kind of technique?" Zhou Xuanji heard it, and immediately he thought of the Constitution Defying Creation Sutra. Only this energy technique was worth the white dragon spirit's attention. "Who are you? What do you want?" Zhou Xuanji asked, pretending to be calm. What cultivation did he have? Despite his power, he could not resist the white dragon spirit at all. The white dragon spirit replied, "I don't know where I came from either. I came out from a door, and I don't have clear memories. But a voice told me to find a sword." Eternal God Gate. Zhou Xuanji frowned deeply. What was that sword? Could it be referring to him? He focused on the sword's way, and his body could become a sword. The white dragon spirit came up close to his face. It blinked its eyes and sniffed his scent as it asked, "Do you know where that sword is?" "I don't know where to go. Your aura is very familiar to me. I won't hurt you." Zhou Xuanji did not know how to reply. He was not even sure if the white dragon spirit was telling the truth. "Is it really just a sword?" He asked hesitantly. "What are you going to do after you find her?" He asked hesitantly. "That's right, a sword that can destroy everything. After I find her, I will destroy her and her master," the white dragon spirit replied. Its tone was very innocent, just like that of a child. Zhou Xuanji could not help but think of his endless annihilation emperor sword. That sword could destroy everything in the endless universe. Other than that, there was no other sword. He was the most powerful sword cultivator in the endless universe. Zhou Xuanji's rise made the sword's way popular again in the northern universe. Under such circumstances, Zhou Xuanji was sure that the white dragon spirit was looking for him. Zhou Xuanji could not defeat the white dragon spirit. "I have to think of a way to trick it," Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. The white dragon spirit circled around him and said, "I'm not looking for you. You don't have to lie to me." Zhou Xuanji was stunned. He looked a little awkward. Could this guy hear the voice in his heart? "Forget it. I'll look for it myself. If you find that sword, remember to look for me. Use this scale." The white dragon turned around and left, leaving behind a palm-sized white scale. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Zhou Xuanji picked up the white scale and fell into deep thought. He looked up and confirmed that the white dragon was no longer there. He didn't leave. Instead, he stayed where he was and pondered. Just how many unknown and powerful existences had escaped from the eternal divine gate. First was Qin Zun. Then there was Gu Zun's inner demon. Now, there was another white dragon that made his hair stand on end. Zhou Xuanji fell into unease. It seemed like the enemies in the boundless universe were not limited to the lawless region. There was also a threat from the eternal God gate. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. He sighed and said helplessly, "I originally wanted to take a look at new domains and things. How did I get involved in trouble again?" Zhou Xuanji began to worry about the Sword Emperor Divine court situation. He immediately contacted his doppelganger. After a while, Zhou Xuanji's expression changed and immediately disappeared. Inside a palace, Zhou Tanhua sat on the main seat. His face was extremely pale. 12 divine lords, 36 court sovereigns, Yuan Cheng, and Jinsheng were also standing in the palace. Everyone's face was very ugly. The atmosphere was extremely depressing. Zhou Tanhua took a deep breath and asked, "Is there no one in the divine court who can fight Sovereign Qin?" A few days ago, Sovereign Qin broke into the Sword Emperor Divine Court alone. He swept away his previous habit of challenging countless overlords and swept the entire Sword Emperor Divine Court. All 12 divine lords were defeated. If it weren't for the ancestral Buddha and the lawless fire god, they wouldn't have been able to drive Sovereign Qin away. Even if the two joined forces, they still wouldn't be able to defeat Sovereign Qin. That guy is too strong, and he feels very strange. "He's as dull as a puppet," Yuan Cheng said, gritting his teeth. Sovereign Qin made the Sword Emperor Divine Court lose face. Everyone was panicking. The most important thing was that Sovereign Qin didn't leave. He stayed in the Sword Emperor Divine Court, swaggering around. The lawless fire god and the ancestral Buddha only promised to protect the star's domain. "If only His Majesty was here," a court sovereign muttered. One of the venerables muttered, His voice was so loud in the quiet palace that everyone could hear it clearly. Zhou Tanhua's face was gloomy. He hated himself for being weak. Sovereign Qin wanted to attack him, but seeing that Zhou Tanhua was too weak, Sovereign Qin disdained him. This deeply provoked him. He had always been confident, but he couldn't abandon everything and cultivate in seclusion. Jinsheng took a deep breath and said, "Now is the time of crisis for the Sword Emperor Divine Court. Everyone must be united." After subduing Nan Wujin, the Sword Emperor Divine Court was like the sun in the sky. It could be said to be the largest force in the endless universe. But now, one sovereign Qin had destroyed their magnificent image. Jinsheng was filled with hatred, but he couldn't show it in front of Zhou Tanhua. He was afraid that Zhou Tanhua wouldn't be able to bear the pressure. "If Zhou Xuanji doesn't come back within 100 years, then I will destroy the Sword Emperor Divine Court." A domineering shout resounded throughout the entire northern infinity. Everyone in the palace had a drastic change of expression when they heard this. Too arrogant. Zhou Tanhua clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, another familiar voice resounded. 100 years? No need, you will die today. Zhou Xuanji. Wah! Everyone in the palace was pleasantly surprised. The next second, they panicked. Qin Zun was too powerful. If Zhou Xuanji died in Qin Zun's hands, it would be a devastating blow to the Sword Emperor Divine Court. On the other side, in a cosmic space filled with meteorites, Zhou Xuanji strolled over. Countless silver swords were hovering around him. His expression was indifferent as he locked his gaze on a majestic figure in the distance. It was Qin Zun. Qin Zun sat on a crimson land. His body was extremely burly and wore heavy red armor. 18 long divine weapons levitated behind him. Sabers, spears, halberds, truncheons, and so on. Each of them was burning with raging flames. It was extremely spectacular. Qin Zun's face was shrouded in darkness, revealing only his eyes. He looked as though he came from the abyss. Looking at Zhou Xuanji from afar, he said, "You are finally here. After killing you, my mission will be completed, and I will be free." Zhou Xuanji frowned. His heart was filled with doubts. Tao of extermination. This guy cultivated the Tao of extermination, and he was completely different from the Qin Zun that Gujuagio had described. At first glance, Qin Zun seemed to be a puppet controlled by some unknown existence. Zhou Xuanji immediately activated the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra and the Sword Fusion Technique. Immediately, his aura soared. Boom! Qin Zun leaped, and the crimson land under his feet shattered instantly. Almost in an instant, he appeared before Zhou Xuanji. 18 fiery divine weapons appeared around Zhou Xuanji out of thin air, blocking all his escape routes. Chapter 1066. Boom, boom, boom. Qin Zun continued to maneuver and launch continuous attacks at Zhou Xuanji, but he could not break through the silver sword shadows around Zhou Xuanji. Very strong. His strength has already reached the eternal realm. With such a strong strength, can Gujuagio fight him evenly? Zhou Xuanji frowned. His heart was filled with confusion. What happened to Qin Zun during this period of time? Could it be that he returned to the eternal gate of God? Zhou Xuanji thought as he fought. Under the state of the eternal will, Qin Zun could not hurt him no matter how hard he tried. The eternal realm was an insurmountable chasm. No matter how many years he cultivated, if he couldn't break through to the eternal realm, it would all be in vain. Zhou Xuanji condensed 2 swords of light in his hands, containing the power of creation and destruction. With a wave of the 2 swords, Qin Zun was sent flying. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and a shockwave visible to the naked eye erupted. Delusion, sword sea. The entire void was filled with countless sword shadows, and an incomparably oppressive destructive will enveloped the universe. Qin Zun only had the power of the Tao of extermination. How could he be a match for him? Boom, boom, boom. Countless sword shadows rushed towards Qin Zun. In the beginning, Qin Zun was still able to resist, but soon his 18 flame divine weapons were no longer able to withstand it. In less than 3 breaths' time, Qin Zun's body exploded and he was on the verge of death. At the same time, the beings hiding in the shadows or watching from afar were all dumbfounded. Qin Zun, who had dominated the Sword Emperor Divine Court, was actually powerless against the Sword Emperor? How could this be? They didn't have the time to be pleasantly surprised. The first thing they felt was shock. It had to be known that Zhou Xuanji was very young in Northern Limitless. Perhaps he was already very powerful. But Zhou Xuanji was a super powerful existence who had swept across all of Northern Limitless. Zhou Xuanji did not know what the others were thinking. He only wanted to capture Qin Zun alive and find out his secrets. Right at this moment, Qin Zun suddenly roared at the top of his lungs. His roar was earth-shattering. He suddenly condensed his physical body, and many divine flame weapons appeared around him. There were even more of them than before. These flaming divine weapons rapidly grew in size, forcefully blocking the attack of the Delusion Sea of Swords. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow in surprise. There was something in this guy's body. It was providing him with an endless stream of destructive energy. Zhou Xuanji immediately acted. Wielding the 2 swords in his hands, he turned into a series of afterimages and charged straight into the depths of Qin Zun's soul. This was a soul world filled with boundless flames. Zhou Xuanji spread out his eternal will, searching for the source of the Tao of extermination's power. Boom! Qin Zun's figure appeared suddenly. He was holding a halberd that was wrapped in flames as he looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously. As long as I kill you, my mission will be complete. I will be free. Qin Zun gritted his teeth and roared. His face was twisted, and even though it was covered by darkness, one could still see hatred and killing intent. Zhou Xuanji asked, "What mission? Who arranged it for you?" Qin Zun leaped over and thrust his halberd toward Zhou Xuanji. His movements became even faster. Dang! A mighty legendary sword appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji and easily blocked the flaming halberd. An eternal arrangement. You must die. Qin Zun was like a devil, roaring and attacking at the same time. Zhou Xuanji was tired of listening to him. He ignored him and flew toward the source of the path of extermination. Along the way, Qin Zun's attacks never stopped, but he could not hurt Zhou Xuanji. The gap was so huge that Qin Zun was on the verge of collapsing. Zhou Xuanji could sense that his emotions were unstable. His head kept swaying like a robot that had lost control. Pitiful worm, Zhou Xuanji mumbled. His eyes were fixed ahead. At the end of the sea of flames, there was a gigantic black sphere of light. At first glance, its surface looked like glass, but endless black chi flowed within. It was like an abyss, intimidating to look at. Zhou Xuanji was excited. Such a powerful path of extermination. If he could absorb it, Zhou Xuanji's cultivation would surely increase. How can I reject such a serendipity? Zhou Xuanji's lips curled up into a meaningful smile. Qin Zun appeared behind him again. With a loud boom, a silver radiance burst out, and Qin Zun was blasted away. He could not withstand a single blow. Zhou Xuanji came up to the black sphere of light in 2 steps. With the mighty sword in his right hand, he pierced through the surface of the sphere. The majestic path of extermination took the form of the black chi and surged out wantonly, engulfing Zhou Xuanji. Qin Zun was enraged to the extreme. He fell into terror. No matter how he attacked, he could not break the eternal will around Zhou Xuanji. He panicked even more. Once Zhou Xuanji succeeded, he would surely die. "Let me go," Qin Zun said with gritted teeth and stopped attacking. But even though this guy begged for mercy, he still looked very ferocious. Zhou Xuanji ignored him and continued to absorb the path of extermination. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji felt that this path of extermination was very familiar. He seemed to have encountered it somewhere before. But thinking about it, he had only met a handful of people who had grasped the path of extermination, and none of them matched it. This is so strange. Recently, I've encountered too many familiar things that I can't recall. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji muttered to himself. With a thought, he took out the Master Emperor door and pretended to block in front of him. He asked in his heart, "Does this path of extermination come from the eternal God Gate?" This path of extermination. Zhou Xuanji was looking forward to it. The Ancestor Lord Spirit was more experienced. He got the answer just by sensing it. "I'm not sure," the Ancestor Lord's Spirit replied. Zhou Xuanji almost went on a rampage. "If you're not sure, then you're not sure." Boom! The path of extermination in the black sphere suddenly sped up and poured into Zhou Xuanji's body. Caught off guard, Zhou Xuanji's consciousness was impacted, and he fell into a daze. "I hate!" Qin Zun roared at the top of his lungs. His body formed by his soul quickly dissipated. The soul world began to collapse. The sea of flames dissipated. Zhou Xuanji appeared in the void of the northern endless universe. His entire body was shrouded in black qi, and he was in a strange state. The main Emperor Gate took him away suddenly and disappeared into the void. Soon, the divine lords of the Sword Emperor Divine Court came one after another. In the pale space-time in a godlike state, Zhou Xuanji stood there quietly with the main Emperor Gate behind him. The Ancestor Lord Spirit came out from the gate, but he could not see his face. The Ancestor Lord's Spirit rubbed his chin and thought to himself, "Strange. How could this brat absorb the path of extermination so easily? What's hidden in it?" It began to circle around Zhou Xuanji, trying to see through him. A while later, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes suddenly. His eyes were pitch black, and the scara could not be seen. Next, his eyes returned to normal. He looked at his hands and sensed the surging path of extermination in his body. He frowned. "So easy? It feels like it's waiting for me on purpose." Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He was on his guard instinctively. The Ancestor Lord's Spirit replied, "Be careful. That guy escaped from the Eternal God Gate, after all. Everything has a cause and effect." Chapter 1067. After absorbing Sovereign Qin's exterminating Tao, Zhou Xuanji grew even more powerful. However, he was not calm at all. Something didn't feel right. This Tao of annihilation was too easy to absorb, and it was actively drilling into his body. There must be a reason behind this abnormality. He did not immediately return to the Sword Emperor Divine Court, and instead traveled back and forth in the spiritless state. He was afraid that something would happen to him and that he might accidentally injure the Sword Emperor Divine Court. So he wanted to observe him for a period of time. The progenitor Lord Spirit also agreed with his decision. In the following period of time, the spirit of the founder Lord continued to float around Zhou Xuanji. He did not return to the Master Emperor's Gate and taught him how to more effectively control the Tao of extermination and the Constitution defying Creation Sutra. Since ancient times, there have been countless almighty beings who have grasped the Tao of annihilation and the scripture of defiance of the Constitution of creation. However, the number of people who have grasped both of them can be counted on one's fingers. Those fellows are all existences who have grasped the boundless universe. In these long years, I have personally witnessed the existence of many geniuses. Brat, although your innate talent is also very exaggerated, in a long river of history, you can at most rank in the top 3. There is even one person who is inferior to me. The Ancestor's Spirit floated in front of Zhou Xuanji and said leisurely. Zhou Xuanji closed his eyes and asked who. He was actually not very interested in the past. Even someone as strong as the primogenitor ended up like this. That person can't actually be called a human. He was an eternal deity from the moment he was born. He was blessed by the heavens and was doted on by the endless universe. His honorific title was Supreme Firmament. Hearing his flattering tone, Zhou Xuanji suspected that he was talking about his own son. Supreme Firmament? This name? Zhou Xuanji raised his brow with a strange expression. There are heavens beyond heavens. He was the one who created this. This natural luck protects the weaker creatures, one creature a day, preventing them from being accidentally injured by powerful beings. The progenitor Lord's Spirit continued. A long time ago, there was no such thing as the heavens. The universe was created from the primordial world, and there were no barriers between the various worlds. If there was a conflict between experts, just their auras alone would be enough to annihilate countless living beings. So that was how it was. No wonder it was called the supreme firmament. Zhou Xuanji came to a realization. He had thought that this name was silly, but it turned out that it was the real firmament. I just want to know why all of you, who seem to be invincible eternal existences, fell. Is it all because of the eternal God gate? Zhou Xuanji shook his head. He was not interested in these ancient legends. He only cared about his own future. For what he understood, eternal existences were not absolutely safe. There must be some great danger hidden behind them. Every time he mentioned this matter, the spirit of the Founder Lord would change the topic. Even the fire god and the blood dragon ghost were wary of it. It was as if he would die if he said it. This made him even more curious. The Founding Lord's spirit sighed. It's not that I don't want to say it, it's that I can't. Even you're afraid? Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. The primogenitor was an existence that created everything. If even he was afraid, then wouldn't the boundless universe be finished? It's not that I'm afraid. I just can't admit its existence. The Founder's spirit shook its head. It paused for a moment before continuing. You will only be qualified to know when you break through to the fourth stage of eternal will. Can't admit it? Zhou Xuanji frowned and began to seriously ponder over this sentence. What kind of existence was it that even the progenitor master couldn't recognize? Then, the Founder Lord's spirit changed the topic. Zhou Xuanji's mind was still stuck on the word, I can't admit it. The news of Qin Zun being killed by the Sword Emperor spread throughout the boundless universe, and it was like a heavy bomb that exploded in the surroundings that had just calmed down, causing a storm to arise once more. The insufferably arrogant Qin Zun challenged all four directions, but he still fell at the feet of the high-spirited Sword Sovereign. Now, Zhou Xuanji's image in everyone's hearts had completely changed. In the past, everyone only thought that he was terrifyingly talented and that he could rise quickly. Only now did everyone know that his strength was also terrifying. As a result, the status of the Sword Emperor Divine Court rose, and the progress of Nan Wujin's subduing mission skyrocketed. Many living beings sought refuge in the Sword Emperor Divine Court in order to admire the Sword Emperor's splendor. There were even creatures from the east and the west. They did not know that Zhou Xuanji was not in the Sword Emperor Divine Court. He was still in a daze. After staying for a few years, after Zhou Xuanji confirmed that he was fine, he could not help but leave. He planned to return to the Sword Emperor Divine Court to take a look. After returning to Northern Limitless, he released Jiang Shui. Jiang Shui first checked his body, and after confirming that he was fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. She said bitterly, "See, you were running around and almost got into danger." Zhou Xuanji smiled. "It has nothing to do with the lawless region. It was Qin Zun who caused trouble." "Oh, what about Qin Zun?" Jiang Shui asked anxiously. Qin Zun was a powerful being who had challenged 3 endless limitless. She could not help but worry that Qin Zun would endanger the Sword Emperor Divine Court. "I destroyed him," Zhou Xuanji said softly. Jiang Shui immediately heaved a sigh of relief. She was not surprised. In her eyes, any seemingly invincible cultivator could fall in front of Zhou Xuanji. "Where are we going next?" she asked. "Back to the Divine Court," Zhou Xuanji replied. Hearing this, Jiang Shui was overjoyed. She missed Zhou Shaoxian a little. The two quickly flew toward the Sword Emperor Divine Court. Not long after they left, a ball of black qi appeared in the space where they were before. The black qi surged, and there was an eye inside. It was a very ordinary eye. 9 ancient phases, 5 had been chosen. After returning to the Sword Emperor Divine Court, Zhou Xuanji didn't make a big fuss. He separated from Jiang Shui. Jiang Shui went to visit Zhou Shaoxian while he went to Zhou Tanhua's residence. At this moment, Zhou Tanhua was sitting in front of the table, looking at the scrolls on the table. His face was full of exhaustion. "Looks like you're not used to it." Zhou Xuanji's voice came, and he turned around in shock. He saw Zhou Xuanji standing in front of the window, looking at him with a smile. Zhou Tianhua said helplessly. Father, these things are too troublesome. It's more tiring than making a breakthrough in cultivation. Why are you personally managing these things? Zhou Xuanji asked. I want to learn. If I don't understand the Sword Emperor Divine Court, I'm afraid I will make mistakes in management. Zhou Tianhua replied. Although he was tired, he was not discouraged. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, Do you want to learn new skills? Upon hearing this, Zhou Tianhua's eyes lit up, and he immediately stood up. Just when he was about to speak, Zhou Xuanji pointed a finger at his forehead. Boom! The surrounding scenery immediately changed, and the two of them arrived at the absolute time realm. Zhou Xuanji directly talked about the Constitution defying creation scripture. What happened to Qin Zun made him feel a little scared. He felt that it was necessary to make Zhou Tianhua stronger. In the past, he was just afraid that this kid would get into trouble after learning the Constitution defying creation scripture. But now, it seemed that even if he didn't look for trouble, trouble would come to him. It wasn't the first time that Zhou Tianhua had listened to the ancestral voice. He instantly entered a state of epiphany. While talking about the Constitution defying creation scripture, Zhou Xuanji imprinted the ancestral voice words into his mind, allowing him to understand. With Zhou Xuanji's guidance, it wasn't impossible for Zhou Tianhua to master the Constitution defying creation scripture. I've been missing updates a lot recently. Sorry, I'm short of money this year. I have to find a way to make money, so I've been delayed. It's almost March. Everyone, be careful. Don't screw up at the last minute. You must wear a mask when you go out. Chapter 1068. Zhou Xuanji taught Zhou Tianhua the Constitution defying creation scripture. Even though Zhou Tianhua had heard the ancestral voice many times, he still needed time. During the teaching process, Zhou Xuanji did not remain idle. He sent out countless out-of-soul clones to every corner of the Sword Emperor Divine Court to gather information. He had a feeling that other than Qin Zun, there were probably other existences that would target the Sword Emperor Divine Court. According to what Qin Zun said, this guy was ordered by someone and had no choice. What kind of existence could order Qin Zun around? A conspiracy was approaching Zhou Xuanji. Perhaps it wasn't just directed at him. The four overlords of Cardinal Heaven, Hunyuan Heaven, Zhongji, and Gujuagio were also forced into hiding. It didn't seem to be connected, but in reality, it was already falling apart. No matter who planned all of this, they would become Zhou Xuanji's future enemy. Time passed year by year. This year, one of Zhou Xuanji's avatars sensed that something was wrong. It was a ball of black qi, and an eye was hidden within it. It seemed to be looking for something, wandering aimlessly at the edge of the North Boundless. The eye in the black qi suddenly looked at Zhou Xuanji's avatar. Zhou Xuanji asked, Who are you? What is his motive? Of the 9 ancient aspects, you're one of them. An illusory voice came from the black gas. 9 ancient phases? What was that? Zhou Xuanji immediately reached out to grab the eye in the black qi. However, as soon as his hand touched the black gas, his avatar immediately dissipated. Returning to his original body, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and frowned. Strange, what is that? Zhou Xuanji muttered to himself. Zhou Tianhua was still in a state of enlightenment. While imparting the unconstitutional creation scripture, he sent his consciousness into the emperor's door. Hey, do you know what the 9 ancient phases are? 9 ancient phases? Where did you hear that? The primogenitor's spirit's voice rang out, sounding extremely nervous. From the looks of it, the 9 ancient aspects were incredible. Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything and told him what happened. Oh no, no wonder you've encountered all this. So you've already been chosen. The founder spirit said with a trembling voice. Zhou Xuanji asked closely, What do you mean? Can you not keep me in suspense? The founder lord's spirit sighed. It's a long story. A long time ago, before the boundless universe was formed, I created everything. However, I never expected that the creatures I created would be stronger than me. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. What? There is an existence even more powerful than the spirit of the primogenitor? To be precise, I didn't create everything. It was the Constitution defying scripture of creation and the path of annihilation that made me who I am. Without these two supreme Taoists, I would just be a speck of dust in the primordial chaos. I used them to create living beings and reproduce the consciousness of these two supreme Taoists. They were the most powerful 9 of the first batch of creatures. From the moment their consciousnesses were born, they knew of each other's existence, and so they named themselves the 9 ancient aspects. The primogenitor, Lord's spirit, said faintly. His ancient voice pulled Zhou Xuanji into a time before time was born. It's precisely because they're too powerful that they don't allow other existences to be as powerful as them. That's why they're fighting each other. A war that swept through the Kunlun origin court broke out. In that war, many innocent people were sacrificed. In the end, I had no choice but to act. I suppressed them, but I also aroused their resentment. They feel that everything I have now is because of them. I owe them, so I repay their kindness with enmity. They refused to accept the seal and chose to dissipate. The wills of the 9 ancient phases spread to every corner of the Kunlun origin court. Even I couldn't detect their existence because the scripture of creation and the path of extinction that I was looking for were them. Countless years later, the 9 ancient aspects were like a curse. From time to time, they would reincarnate and continue fighting. The last time the 9 ancient aspects appeared was during the era of the primeval sovereign. The primeval sovereign single-handedly suppressed the 9 ancient aspects, causing the boundless universe to collapse. He had no choice but to open up a new universe, using his power as a foundation to transform it into the great Tao, protecting countless mortals. However, this also caused the eternal God race to be trapped in the cracks, leaving behind new karma. At this point, the Founder Lord's spirit stopped. Zhou Xuanji continued to ask, where did that I come from? It was normal for him to be chosen as one of the 9 ancient aspects. After all, he cultivated the Constitution defying creation scripture and the Tao of annihilation. However, he was very curious about who the other 8 people were. He must have also mastered the Constitution defying creation scripture or the Tao of annihilation. In that case, the number of people could be counted on one hand. Zhou Xuanji calculated and realized that he could not gather 9 people. That eye is my eye. The Founder Lord's spirit sighed. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. You have seen the primeval sovereign's inner demon before. Anyone who enters the eternal God gate will give birth to an absolutely evil version of themselves. I have been there before, and so has the primeval sovereign. The Founder Lord's spirit continued to explain. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, in that case, the eternal God gate might have countless inner demons, and there might even be some who are incredibly powerful. If that was the case, wouldn't the eternal God gate be invincible? Once the eternal God gate was opened, countless inner demons would rush out, enough to destroy the boundless universe. Yes, all beings who have stepped into the eternal realm have gone to the eternal God gate. There are too many fortuitous encounters inside, and they are irresistibly attractive to all beings. No one can destroy the eternal God gate, and they can only allow it to accumulate inner demons. The Founder Lord's spirit's words were filled with fear. Even someone as powerful as the Founder Lord feared the eternal God gate. Zhou Xuanji asked, do you have a way to resolve it? No. You can only wait for your fate to come. If you cannot continue living, everything else is meaningless. That's it. I'm tired. The Founder Lord's spirit sighed. This past made him feel very uncomfortable, and he did not want to talk about it anymore. Zhou Xuanji did not stop him. He started thinking about it himself. In other words, he would have to face the 9 ancient phase tribulations. Who were the other 8? Mastering the Constitution defying creation scripture or the Tao of extermination? Could it be? Zhou Xuanji suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He looked up at Zhou Tanhua and hesitated. Once Zhou Tanhua mastered the Constitution defying creation scripture, would he also be selected as one of the 9 ancient phases? No. The Founder Lord's spirit said reincarnation, not will selection. In other words, Zhou Xuanji was recognized as one of the 9 ancient phases since birth. Could it be that the remaining 8 are reincarnators like me? Bah, why is it getting more and more complicated the more I think about it? Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath, trying not to think too much. He began to focus on preaching to Zhou Tianhua. About 100 years later, Zhou Tianhua finally mastered the constitution-defying creation scripture. His aura had transformed. He suddenly opened his eyes, which turned purple. A terrifying aura erupted. If it weren't for the absolute time realm, many innocent creatures would have been killed by his pressure. Zhou Xuanji stood aside and observed quietly. He wanted to see this kid's aptitude and when he would have the hope to step into the eternal realm. Chapter 1069. Zhou Tianhua felt the power of the Constitution defying creation scripture, and an excited smile appeared on his face. This power, it really feels different. He had become stronger. It was far more powerful than before. He turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and said emotionally, "Thank you, Father." He wanted to continue speaking, but was interrupted by Zhou Xuanji. "Don't be in such a hurry to thank me. There are some things I need to tell you. You are now independent, so you should know these things." Zhou Xuanji said seriously. His emotions were complicated. He was looking forward to it, but at the same time, he felt a little guilty. He had originally wanted to protect his children, but now he was urging his son to grow up. Zhou Xuanji told Zhou Tianhua everything that had happened before, including the 9 ancient aspects. Zhou Tianhua was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the seemingly peaceful, boundless universe was actually hiding so many dangers. Furthermore, it was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Even eternal existences who had transcended the undying realm would find it difficult to protect themselves. "Father, you won the 9 ancient aspects. Isn't this going to be very dangerous? Is that why you taught me the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra, so that I can deal with these things with peace of mind?" Zhou Tianhua asked with a frown. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'll help you hand over the divine court to Tianyuan." After hearing Zhou Xuanji's words, he understood why Zhou Xuanji helped him to his current position. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "There's no need for that. Haven't I, your father, encountered many sure-death situations before? Although the enemy is getting stronger, I'm also getting stronger. Just lead the celestial court to become stronger. Only then will I be able to fight against my destiny with peace of mind." Zhou Tianhua wanted to say something, but hesitated. Zhou Xuanji continued, "You have learned the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra. You might encounter the same situation. Never let your guard down." He waved his right hand and took Zhou Tianhua out of the realm of absolute time. After returning to Zhou Tianhua's palace, Zhou Tianhua looked around. Even though he had learned the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra, he could not see through Zhou Xuanji's move at all. How high had his father's realm reached? Don't think too much about it. When you've completely mastered the Constitution-defying Creation Sutra, I'll teach you another supreme Tao. Zhou Xuanji patted Zhou Tianhua's shoulder and said with a chuckle. He had high expectations for Zhou Tianhua. With that, he disappeared on the spot. Zhou Tianhua sat down and pondered. "I have to become stronger," he muttered to himself, his eyes filled with determination. While Zhou Xuanji was waiting in the Sword Emperor Divine Court, a rumor spread without any warning. Eternal Gate of God. It was said that as long as one stepped into the Eternal God Gate, they would obtain an unparalleled cultivation. Qin Zun was originally immortal, but because he had gone to the Eternal God Gate, he was strong enough to challenge the endless overlords. This rumor caused everyone to seethe with excitement. Who didn't want to become stronger? Who doesn't want to be like Qin Zun, able to call the wind and summon the rain, majestic and awe-inspiring? But in the boundless universe, one's talent determined one's level. All existences that were able to attain the peak were extraordinary geniuses that stood above the trillions of living beings. For a time, a wave of people searching for the eternal gate of God rose from all directions. The Sword Emperor Divine Court had always sent people to guard the lawless region between the northern boundless region and the southern boundless region. However, when the members of the Sword Emperor Divine Court heard the rumors, they couldn't help but be moved. It didn't take long for someone to break into the eternal gate of God. With the first person, there was a second. By the time the news reached Zhou Tanhua's ears, things had already gone out of control. What? Isn't it forbidden to get close? Zhou Tanhua shouted angrily, his voice resounding throughout the hall. All the higher-ups of the Sword Emperor Divine Court in the hall had ugly expressions on their faces. Yuan Cheng gnashed his teeth and said, "It's already out of control. Endless creatures from the other three sides are constantly coming to look for the Eternal God Gate. Those guys have all gone crazy." Zhou Tanhua's face changed from anger. Zhou Xuanji had told him how terrifying the Eternal God Gate was. But is there really an opportunity hidden in the Eternal God Gate? A court's sovereign couldn't help but ask. Obviously, he was also very tempted. Zhou Tanhua coldly snorted and said, "Yes, there's an opportunity. Do you want to see Qin Zun's end?" Qin Zun was indeed awe-inspiring, but he had already fallen. However, in the eyes of all living beings, his fall was because he was too arrogant. This had nothing to do with the Eternal God Gate. Zhou Tanhua glanced around and guessed everyone's thoughts. He thought about it and decided to reveal the secret of the Eternal God Gate. When he finished speaking, everyone's faces were filled with terror. Once they entered the Eternal God Gate, all living beings would have an inner demon. Even someone as strong as Ancient Sovereign had an inner demon. Qin Zun was forced to challenge the endless overlords. The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. Jin Cheng gnashed his teeth and said, "Not good. Could that rumor have been spread by the Eternal God Gate? Even if they aren't from the Eternal Divine Gate, they are definitely up to no good." Everyone's expression changed drastically. If that was really the case, then it would be a calamity for the entire boundless universe. What are we waiting for? Hurry up and contact the other two endless overlords. Rainbow Qin Saint Monarch said hurriedly. He hadn't expected that the true danger had only just arrived. The boundless universe was truly plagued with calamities. No, Gu Juejiao and Zhong Ji have disappeared. How long has it been since you heard anything about them? Yuan Cheng shook his head. Previously, they thought that he was in seclusion, but now that they thought about it, it made them shudder. "What should we do now?" someone asked. Yuan Cheng's eyes flickered, and he said, "We can only release this news." Given the current situation, the more he tried to stop them, the more impulsive they would be. Zhou Tanhua thought for a while and finally nodded in agreement. While everyone was going crazy over the Eternal God Gate, the Sword Emperor Divine Court revealed the truth about the Eternal God Gate. Everyone was in an uproar. Countless living beings were terrified. However, there were even more creatures who didn't believe this, feeling that the Sword Emperor Divine Court wanted to monopolize it. Zhou Xuanji heard about this and did not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not stop them. He did not have the ability to stop them. He was communicating with the Ancestor Lord's spirit in the Star's Palace. This is the general trend, a calamity of the boundless universe. All you can do is wait. Back then, Gu Zun also faced a calamity like this. Before him, the boundless universe had been destroyed, but there were always survivors of the Eternal God clan. You don't have to worry too much. Just do your best. Just do your best, the Ancestor Lord's spirit said calmly. Zhou Xuanji sighed. Only eternal gods can survive. Yes, work harder. Let your descendants also become eternal gods, the Ancestor Lord's spirit said with a smile. Ever since this guy revealed the reason for the 9 ancient phases, he seemed to have let himself go. He often teased about these great calamities and was not worried at all. "I want to break through to the second level of eternal will. Can you give me some guidance?" Zhou Xuanji asked. "I can't. I'm just a trace of will. I don't have complete memories," the Ancestor Lord Spirit replied. Why did Zhou Xuanji sound like he was acting shamelessly, as if the world had nothing to do with him? Zhou Xuanji put him back into the Master Emperor Gate, too lazy to look at him. At this moment, an aura came. "Zhou Xuanji, I know you are inside. I want to see you." The owner of the voice was the Ancestor Buddha. Chapter 1070. Come in, Zhou Xuanji said. With a thought, the doors of the Stars Hall opened. The ancestral Buddha followed suit. Seeing how anxious he was, Zhou Xuanji could not help but feel curious. Did something happen to this guy? Usually, the ancestral Buddha would stay in his lair to study the Constitution, defying Creation Sutra, and rarely come out. The ancestor Buddha said excitedly, "The eternal God Gate has appeared. Should we go and do something?" "What are you doing?" "Be careful not to get into trouble," Zhou Xuanji said unpleasantly before explaining the dangers of the eternal God Gate. After the ancestor Buddha heard this, he said in disdain, "Who told you all this? You must be up to something. Since the eternal God Gate is able to create the inner demons of everyone who enters, it means that it isn't targeting anyone. Qin Zun, killing you might have something to do with one of your enemies. Even after entering the eternal God Gate, his hatred for you hasn't diminished. The eternal divine sect has already duplicated so many mental demons. Do they still need us? Even if we don't go, we won't be able to destroy the eternal God Gate. If we go, we can strengthen ourselves and prevent others from surpassing us. You didn't go because you were afraid of the trouble that the eternal God Gate might bring. Now that all the other living beings have gone and are getting stronger and stronger, you've been stagnant. When the time comes, let alone the eternal God Gate, even your enemies won't let you off." The ancestral Buddha's words caused Zhou Xuanji to sink into deep thought. It seemed like he was looking ahead and not caring about the consequences, but there was actually a great reason behind it. That was right. What was he worried about? Since ancient times, there had been many experts who had entered the eternal God Gate. Guzun had also been there, leaving his name in history. The progenitor master had also been there. What was he afraid of? Now, the tide of living beings surging into the eternal God Gate had already erupted, and there was no way to stop it. Zhou Xuanji was moved. Should he go to the eternal God Gate to take a look? If the other two overlord forces went, then the Sword Emperor Divine Court might fall behind. No, he couldn't just sit and wait for death. Zhou Xuanji immediately summoned Zhou Tanhua. Soon, Zhou Tanhua entered the hall. Zhou Tanhua nodded to the ancestor Buddha before looking at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji said, "After the ancestral Buddha's persuasion, I plan to go to the eternal God Gate to take a look. When the time comes, I will leave behind an outer soul clone. If there are no major problems, I will let the Sword Emperor Divine Court go as well." "Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Zhou Tanhua asked in surprise. Could it be that even his father had been bewitched? Zhou Xuanji shook his head and smiled. This could be considered his mistake. He repeated the ancestral Buddha's words. Zhou Tanhua was also persuaded. The reason was simple. That was the general trend. They could not be saviors. It would be fine if there were dangers within the eternal divine gate, but he was afraid that there would really be opportunities. Although the Sword Emperor Divine Court dominated the northern boundless and southern boundless, if other factions rose up, it would not be easy to control them. "Yes, father. You must be careful." Zhou Tanhua hesitated for a moment before nodding. The ancestral Buddha urged, "Hurry up, unstoppable fire god has already left." "Where'd he go? Didn't he tell me to stay away from the eternal God Gate?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. He was afraid before, but after seeing so many living beings go, he let down his guard. The ancestor Buddha answered. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji's face twitched. His fear of the eternal divine gate started from the fire god. This dog fur. Zhou Xuanji immediately sent out an out-of-soul clone and left with the ancestor Buddha. Under the spiritless state, the two of them advanced at an extremely fast speed. The ancestor Buddha asked, "Have you not broken through for a long time?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "It hasn't been that long. I'm not even old enough for you to break through a small stage." The ancestor Buddha glared at him and said, "I mean relative to your speed of improvement." Zhou Xuanji fell silent. Indeed, ever since he broke through the first level of eternal will, his cultivation had not improved. Previously, he relied on Sovereign Qin's exterminating Tao to become stronger. Without external factors, he could no longer find a way to become stronger. This was also the reason why he wanted to venture into the impassable region. As one of the 9 ancient phases, the eternal divine gate opened at this time to create a battlefield for you. If you don't enter, you will be eliminated sooner or later, the ancestor Buddha said meaningfully. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Let's wait and see after we enter the eternal divine gate. Maybe what awaits us is a nightmare." The ancestor Buddha shook his head. He was not worried about this. He had divined his own fortune. This trip was a blessing. The impassable region. In the dark void, countless living beings were scattered around. At the center of all living beings, there was a gigantic gate that was radiating boundless radiance. It was dazzling and beautiful, as though it was the entrance to the ultimate paradise. All living beings nearby looked at it with yearning and fear. The eternal divine gate. Although countless living beings had already entered the eternal divine gate, more of them were hesitant. No one knew what was hidden within the eternal divine gate. At this moment, a silhouette dashed toward them. He emanated a powerful aura and was enveloped in a red radiance like a god. He charged into the eternal divine gate without any fear. That's Gu Tongxian from West Infinity. Gu Tongxian is here too. I heard that he's Gu Juejiu's most valued disciple. Gu Juejiu has disappeared, and now Gu Tongxian has charged into the eternal divine gate. This means that the divine gate is indeed a serendipity. Let's go. Let's charge in together. The living beings discussed among themselves. Immediately, many of them flew into the eternal divine gate. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the ancestor Buddha came too. Zhou Xuanji, who was in the eternal realm, could charge into the eternal divine gate in soulless mode without being discovered by the living beings. Once he entered the eternal divine gate, Zhou Xuanji's soulless mode was forcefully dispelled. A vast radiance knocked Zhou Xuanji and the ancestor Buddha apart. This power, Zhou Xuanji was shocked. He wanted to open his eyes, but could not. He felt that he was restrained by a formless power and could not move. After a long while, he opened his eyes slowly and found himself standing on a cliff. He was not injured, and the eternal will was not damaged either. This is Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and looked around. Below the cliff was a boundless desert that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. Numerous lone peaks stood on the desert, looking desolate and desolate. Zhou Xuanji tried to fly, but realized that there seemed to be some kind of rule that prevented him from doing so. He could only move forward on foot. Even if he leaped, the pressure would increase tremendously once he flew into the air. He was curious. What kind of world is this? He leaped off the cliff and landed in the desert. Then he began walking forward. Since he was here, he should observe the situation first. It was said that there were countless serendipity within the eternal divine gate. He wanted to see if it was true. From what he saw, the world within the eternal divine gate was not that evil. The soil in the desert was soft, as though it could collapse at any time. Not only that, but the spiritual qi here was very special. It was more profound and dense than the great Tao in the boundless universe. He felt that he could absorb the spiritual qi with just a breath. It was refreshing. Could this be serendipity? Chapter 1071. Zhou Xuanji walked on the desert while absorbing the mystical spiritual qi here. Although the spiritual qi could not increase his cultivation much for someone who had reached the eternal realm, it was still very novel to him. He wanted to know where the spiritual qi came from and where was the end of the desert. He walked on. After walking for about 2 hours, he stopped suddenly. A silhouette appeared in front of him. It was a cultivator in a green robe. He was sitting on a small reef hill. Looking closely, the cultivator's face was strange. Half of his face was black, while the other half was dark green. 2 beams of light stood beside him. Judging from their appearance, one was a saber and the other was a sword. Zhou Xuanji could not see through him and was curious. Did he encounter an eternal cultivator the moment he came in? What business do you have? If you don't want to make enemies, please take a detour. The cultivator in a green robe said coldly. Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile. I'm new here and am curious about the Eternal Divine Gate. I hope you can give me some pointers. Having heard that, the cultivator opened his eyes suddenly. His gaze fell on Zhou Xuanji and asked in confusion, You just came in? Seems like you're very powerful. The Eternal Divine Gate is divided into countless realms. Different cultivations enter different realms. Those who come here have at least level 2 eternal will. I've been cultivating here for 500 million years, and it's my first time meeting someone who just entered the Eternal Divine Gate, the cultivator said meaningfully. The azure-robed cultivator said meaningfully. He was interested in Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji asked, Is the Eternal Divine Gate full of serendipity? Of course not. There are dangers too. Generally speaking, it's a sanctum full of serendipity. How do I leave the Eternal Divine Gate? It's difficult, but depends on serendipity. The cultivator's answer made Zhou Xuanji fall into deep thought. Is it so difficult to leave the Eternal Divine Gate? Try to become more powerful after you come in. Why do you want to enter if you always want to leave? Don't you know that only those who will die can enter the Eternal Divine Gate? The cultivator shook his head as he sized up Zhou Xuanji. His tone was a little mocking. He thought that Zhou Xuanji was someone powerful, but he wanted to leave the moment he came in. What coward! Zhou Xuanji understood what he meant, but did not mind. He continued to ask, Is the spiritual qi here the main serendipity? Although the spiritual qi of the Eternal Divine Gate could strengthen the eternal will, it was too weak. Zhou Xuanji could not imagine how long it would take for him to break through to the second level of eternal will. Naturally, there are other opportunities. However, cultivating in peace is the safest and most effective way. If you want to strengthen your eternal will in the outside world, it will be very difficult, almost impossible, the azure-robed Taoist replied. Then, he closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Evidently, his interest in Zhou Xuanji had disappeared. Zhou Xuanji smiled and walked in another direction, no longer chatting with the azure-robed cultivator. The green-robed Taoist probably had nothing to worry about outside. There was no point in talking to such a person for too long. For an ascetic like this, a few 100 million years was nothing. However, to someone like Zhou Xuanji, who felt that 100 years was too long, there was no common ground between people of different Daos. Zhou Xuanji sped up and traveled 1,000 kilometers with each step. Although he couldn't fly, he could still use the eternal will to increase his speed. Rather than painstakingly cultivating, it was better to search for opportunities. Otherwise, there would be no point in coming here. Zhou Xuanji began to search everywhere he could. As he advanced, his eternal will swept out in all directions. 6 hours later, he suddenly found a treasure. This treasure was buried in the sand and rocks, and only half of it was exposed. Zhou Xuanji took it out. It was a golden short sword. The blade was as wide as a palm, and the hilt was engraved with veins that looked like leaves. He began to observe it carefully and infused his eternal will into the golden short sword. Boom! His eternal will exploded, and a vast and boundless world appeared in front of him. A boundless blue ocean appeared in his field of vision. There were raging waves, but there was no violent storm. Zhou Xuanji was shocked because the seawater was made of spiritual qi. Spiritual qi ocean. He checked repeatedly. After making sure that there were no problems, he began absorbing the spiritual ocean in the short sword. Rather than absorbing, it was more like swallowing. Boundless spiritual qi seawater flowed into his eternal will, which began to grow stronger. I knew it. This was the correct way to open the Eternal Divine Gate. Zhou Xuanji was very cautious. He kept an eye out in case someone ambushed him. He swallowed the spiritual ocean quickly. In less than half an hour, he was done. His will of eternity had become much stronger. He opened his eyes and threw away the golden short sword. He then continued to search for other treasures. There must be more than one, but it was strange. Why didn't the green-robed cultivator come to collect them? Did he not know? Or had he reached a bottleneck? Zhou Xuanji did not think too much. Anyway, he was sure that it would help him. A few years passed quickly. There were more artifacts with spiritual oceans than Zhou Xuanji had imagined. His Eternal Will had almost doubled in power over the past few years. Such an improvement could only be described as a major breakthrough. He was very excited and continued to search tirelessly. This day, Zhou Xuanji picked up another golden bell. Just when he picked it up, streaks of afterimages dashed toward him from all directions and quickly surrounded him. He raised his head and saw 9 mysterious beings in golden armor. There were no living beings under the golden armor. They were like ghosts. One of the golden-armored beings said with a deep voice, "How dare you? You dare to take His Majesty's treasures. Come with us, or we will kill you on spot." His Majesty's treasures? Zhou Xuanji frowned. He suddenly realized why the green-robe cultivator did not pick up these treasures. They already belonged to someone. That person must be ridiculously powerful to be able to dominate an entire realm. At least the green-robe cultivator did not dare to offend him. Zhou Xuanji's eyes sparkled as he asked, "May I ask who is your majesty?" "Supreme Firmament," one of the golden-armored beings said with a deep voice. "Supreme Firmament." Zhou Xuanji's expression changed. Isn't this the most powerful genius that the founding lord's spirit sighed in amazement? He was an eternal god since his birth. His starting point was the end that all living beings could not reach. Such a being was still alive. Zhou Xuanji had a bad feeling. If he went to meet Supreme Firmament, he might not have a good ending. But if he did not go, would Supreme Firmament deal with him personally? "Let's go." Facing their urging, Zhou Xuanji could only compromise for now. He sensed the aura of the 9 golden-armored beings and analyzed their strength. Very powerful. Damn, are all the eternal gods sect such monsters? No wonder Sovereign Qin was so arrogant after he left. After seeing these monsters, the powerful cultivators in the endless universe were nothing. Zhou Xuanji began to think about how to escape. He was not sure if he could force his way through. "What punishment will I receive?" he asked. If he was to be executed, there was no need to bring him to meet Supreme Firmament. "Massage His Majesty's legs for 100,000 years. One of the golden-armored beings snorted coldly. Chapter 1072. Leg massaging for 100,000 years. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Such a punishment, this was a little unexpected. Humph, don't think it's too much. Previously, there was a guy who massaged His Majesty's shoulders for 1,000,000 years and collapsed immediately. A golden-armored creature snorted coldly. His tone was full of disdain. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. It sounded serious, but no matter how he thought about it, it was absurd. Could it be that there were other tortures during the shoulder and leg massaging process? Zhou Xuanji followed them while thinking about countermeasures. No way. I can't just sit still. No matter what, I have to try to resist. Zhou Xuanji suddenly entered godless state. His eternal will erupted as he quickly turned around and fled. "How dare you? Courting death. Catch him. Don't let him escape." The golden-armored creatures roared furiously. They immediately chased after Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji looked back with a frown. These guys also know godless state. In the absolute pale space, the 9 golden-armored creatures chased after Zhou Xuanji. Fortunately, the gap between them and Zhou Xuanji was widening. Although they also knew godless state, Zhou Xuanji had reached the eternal realm in godless state. How could they catch up with him? Unless they had more than one eternal will. After traveling for a while, Zhou Xuanji successfully shook them off. Just in case, he continued to move forward. After flying for 2 hours, he finally exited godless state. He landed in a desert. There was an oasis in front of him. The trees were tall and lush. Before he even got close, he could already smell the fragrance of flowers that seeped into his heart. He scanned the oasis with his eternal will. After confirming that there was no danger in the oasis, he stepped forward. After entering the oasis, he saw a lake in the middle of the forest. The water was blue and the surface of the lake was glowing. At first glance, it looked like the surface of the sea. Zhou Xuanji thought about it and decided to send an order to Zhou Tianhua, telling him to let people enter the Eternal God Gate. Although he had just encountered danger, he had indeed become stronger. After that, he began to search in the forest. What if there is a golden artifact here? After searching for a while, a voice came. What are you looking for? Zhou Xuanji looked back in shock and saw the white dragon creature he had met in the absolute time, blinking at him. He was stunned and asked in surprise, "Why are you here? Wasn't the white dragon creature looking for a sword? Why did he come back? There's the aura of that sword here. I'm looking for them," the white dragon creature replied, appearing very innocent. "Wait, didn't you come out from the Eternal God Gate? How come I didn't sense it before?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Could it be that the sword had just entered the Eternal Gate of God? "No, I came from another door," the white dragon answered. There was another door? The white dragon moved closer to him, sniffed, and said with a frown, "Your aura has changed. It's becoming similar to this door." Zhou Xuanji frowned. What did that mean? Could it be that the spirit sees within the artifacts would assimilate him in the Eternal Gate of God? Zhou Xuanji suddenly became alert. Should he continue to absorb it? Not bad. At least you've become stronger. Keep going, the white dragon said. Zhou Xuanji looked up at it and asked, "If I continue to grow stronger like this, will it be bad for me?" The white dragon shook its head and said, "How can that be? This is the gate of life, a place that allows living beings to become stronger." Life gate? What do you mean? Could it be that the gate you came from represents the opposite of life, the gate of death? Zhou Xuanji asked. The white dragon did not reply, but turned around and left. Zhou Xuanji noticed that it could levitate in the air and soar freely. It did not seem to be affected by the flight restriction here. He immediately caught up with it and asked, "You haven't answered me." "I'm not sure either. My memory is very blurry. I want to find that sword. Are you willing to help me?" The white dragon turned around and asked. "Of course." Zhou Xuanji nodded. Now that he had offended boundless heaven, he would only be safe if he followed the white dragon. "But you must help me collect some golden enchanted artifacts. Among them are spirit chi seeds that can help me grow stronger," Zhou Xuanji said. "Okay." The white dragon agreed immediately. So easy to talk to? Zhou Xuanji felt strange at his heart. The white dragon seemed to like him a lot and was very obedient to him. Was it pretending, or was there another reason? At this moment, the white dragon opened its mouth suddenly. Its cheeks expanded like a balloon being inflated. Roar! It let out a long roar that shook the heavens and earth. The surrounding forest shook violently. Leaves danced in the wind, and the lake water churned. Swoosh! 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 Streaks of golden light rose up from the lake in an extremely domineering manner. Zhou Xuanji looked at them and was stunned. They were all golden artifacts, just like the ones he encountered before. They were emanating faint spiritual chi ripples. So many golden artifacts were hidden at the bottom of the lake. "All of them are for you. Hurry up, I still need to find that sword." The white dragon spoke and urged Zhou Xuanji to absorb the golden artifacts quickly. Zhou Xuanji did not waste any time. He waved his right hand and pulled all the golden artifacts before him. He began absorbing them one by one. Half an hour later, Zhou Xuanji's eternal will grew tremendously. He felt that he was a few times more powerful than when he first arrived. He was fascinated by this feeling that he had not felt for a long time. Under the white dragon's urging, he did not have time to stop and comprehend. He immediately set off. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji asked the white dragon how much it knew about the Eternal God Gate. The white dragon replied that it had been to the 6 realms. It was the most powerful realm it had ever been to so far. It said that it sensed an extremely powerful aura that even it did not dare to provoke. Zhou Xuanji was even more shocked. He did not expect the white dragon to be afraid of supreme heaven. "What should I do?" He told the white dragon about what happened before. "It's okay. If we can't win, we can run," the white dragon replied without a care. "How do we leave this realm?" Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. "It's simple. Just jump out." "How?" "Just jump like that." Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He felt that the white dragon was acting cool. After that, under the white dragon's lead, they collected all the golden artifacts and searched for that sword. Until now, Zhou Xuanji still did not know where the sword came from or what it looked like. The white dragon could not explain it either. Zhou Xuanji could become more powerful anyway, so he did not bother to ask. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed quickly. Zhou Xuanji obtained a great artifact almost every day, strengthening his eternal will. But as time passed, the white dragon grew more and more impatient. It wanted to leave this realm and head to a higher realm. Zhou Xuanji could not even defeat Supreme Heaven. Wouldn't it be seeking death if he went to a higher realm? So, he began to persuade the white dragon. Maybe the sword was in the lower realm. After all, the white dragon sensed that the sword was in the boundless universe, which meant that the sword had just entered the eternal God Gate. The nearest living beings would not be too powerful. Chapter 1073. After Zhou Xuanji told the white dragon about his idea, the white dragon felt that it made sense and was prepared to bring him down to the lower realm. At this moment, boom, rumble, lightning gathered in the blue sky. A violent gale blew, and a powerful aura enveloped the entire world. Zhou Xuanji frowned. This aura was so powerful. He had become much more powerful, but facing this aura, he felt like a mortal facing a god. Supreme Heaven. Other than him, no one else could give Zhou Xuanji such a horrifying pressure. Humph! Do you think you can swallow this emperor's treasure just because you want to? No matter how much you swallow, you must make it up to me. An extremely majestic voice came. It was deafening, and the thunderclouds billowed violently, as though the sky would collapse at any moment. Zhou Xuanji quickly looked at the white dragon and asked, "Why aren't you jumping?" The white dragon replied, "He has sealed the space. We can't jump. What should we do?" "Don't worry. I'm here. I'm very powerful." "That's good." Zhou Xuanji heaved a long sigh. It's good that the white dragon is confident. At this moment, the thunderclouds parted, and a giant golden hand descended from the sky. It was as massive as the creation god mountain. The white dragon soared up and tried to break through the giant golden hand. Zhou Xuanji looked at it expectantly. This was the most powerful genius in history that even the Ancestor Master was impressed with. The white dragon had a mysterious background. If it could really resist Supreme Heaven, it would be extremely powerful. The white dragon sped up suddenly. Streaks of white silk wrapped around its body, and a majestic aura burst out, causing Zhou Xuanji's robe to flutter violently. He opened his eyes wide. So powerful! He did not expect the white dragon to be so powerful. It was completely different from its usual adorable self. Under Zhou Xuanji's expectant gaze, the white dragon crashed into the giant golden hand's palm. Shortly after, the giant golden hand closed its palm and retracted back into the clouds. Everything returned to normal. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. What happened? The white dragon was captured? What the hell? Zhou Xuanji was stunned. This was not how things were developing. "If you come too." A cold snort came from Supreme Heaven as a giant black hand descended from the sky. It was so fast that even Zhou Xuanji, who was in the eternal realm, couldn't react in time. There was a loud bang. Zhou Xuanji's eternal will was heavily injured, and he instantly fell unconscious. Zhou Xuanji dreamed. He dreamed that he was running back and forth between the two doors, trying to find a way out, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape. Going round and round, it was always the two doors that surrounded him. He woke up with a start. The white dragon flew in front of him, causing him to shrink back in fear. Memories flooded his mind, and his consciousness began to clear. He was captured by the boundless heavens? He immediately stood up and slapped his surroundings. They were above the clouds. This cloud was dozens of feet wide, and there were countless golden lightning bolts flashing on its edges. Zhou Xuanji looked back and saw a giant on the horizon. He was incredibly majestic and was lying on the trunk of a towering tree. That person was wearing a loose blue robe with cloud patterns. His waist was covered by the sea of clouds, and the area above his neck was also covered by the higher clouds. It was impossible to estimate how gigantic his body was, let alone the giant tree he was lying on. Just one trunk of the giant tree was as big as his body. Supreme Heaven? Zhou Xuanji frowned. He looked closer and realized that Supreme Heaven's arms were densely packed with living beings. They were massaging Supreme Heaven. Is there really such a punishment? Zhou Xuanji looked back at the white dragon and said bitterly, "Didn't you say that with you around? There's no need to panic?" The white dragon blinked and said, "Aren't you still alive?" Zhou Xuanji was speechless. At this moment, a golden-armored creature flew over. He stopped outside the clouds and said coldly, "The two of you coveted His Majesty's artifacts. Your punishment is to massage His Majesty's shoulders for 30 million years." 30 million years? Zhou Xuanji and the white dragon opened their eyes wide. Crazy. He could not help but ask, "Can Your Majesty sit for 30 million years without moving? Isn't he afraid of hemorrhoids?" "What is hemorrhoid?" the golden-armored creature asked back. Zhou Xuanji fell silent. "Prepare yourselves. 3 days later, you will receive your punishment," the golden-armored creature said before leaving. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. Zhou Xuanji sighed. He turned around to look at Supreme Heaven's majestic body and began to think of a way to escape. The white dragon came up to him and said, "Don't panic. I'm very powerful. I will help you escape." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes. He thought about it and sent his consciousness into the Master Emperor's door. "Ancestor Lord Spirit, come out quickly. I've been captured by Supreme Heaven," Zhou Xuanji urged in his mind. A while later, the Ancestor Lord Spirit's voice came. "Supreme Heaven? He's still alive?" "Yes. He's the tyrant of the Eternal God Gate. He can do whatever he wants in this realm," Zhou Xuanji replied helplessly. Before he came, he never thought that he would end up like this. The Ancestor Lord's spirit floated out immediately. The white dragon was startled. He looked at the Ancestor Lord's spirit with his eyes wide open. The Ancestor Lord's spirit looked at Supreme Heaven far away and sighed in amazement. "It's him indeed. I didn't expect him to be alive and well. Seems like I've underestimated the Eternal God Gate. This should be the Life Gate. If it's the Death Gate, your situation will be even worse." Life Gate and Death Gate. There were two Eternal God Gates of opposite ends indeed. Zhou Xuanji thought in silence. "Take out the Master Emperor's door later. He will let you go once he sees it," the Ancestor Lord Spirit said before returning to Zhou Xuanji's body. "What's your relationship?" Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart. "He's my little disciple," the Ancestor said. "Teacher and disciple. No wonder. That's right. With Supreme Heaven's talent, only the Ancestor Lord was qualified to teach him." Zhou Xuanji thought as he sat down on the ground. He took out the Master Emperor's door and placed it aside, waiting for Supreme Heaven to discover it. The white dragon opened its eyes wide. It circled around the Master Emperor's door and cried out in fear, "Why do you have this door?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at it and asked, "What's wrong?" "This is the Death Gate." "Oh? What?" Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide and jumped up in fright. The white dragon trembled and said, "As long as one enters the Death Gate, one's inner demon will be duplicated. That soul just now should be the inner demon." Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji's hair stood on end. The Ancestor Lord's spirit in his body was not the Ancestor Lord's soul. It was formed by the Ancestor Lord's inner demon. If that was the case, then everything before, just thinking about it, made Zhou Xuanji feel a chill down his spine. He hurriedly asked in his heart, "Is what it said true?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit did not reply. Zhou Xuanji's heart was in a mess, and he fell into deep thought. Fortunately, he had suppressed the Ancestor Lord's spirit in the Master Emperor's door, or else the Ancestor Lord's spirit might possess him. It was very possible. What should he do now? How should he deal with the Master Emperor's door? Chapter 1074. After knowing that the Master Emperor door might be the Eternal Divine Gate, Zhou Xuanji panicked. He suddenly did not know how to deal with the Master Emperor door. He began to guess the Ancestor Lord's purpose. The white dragon circled around him and stared at the Death Gate. Although it's a Death Gate, it does not have any death chi. It's like an ordinary gate. Could it be sealed? With this, Zhou Xuanji looked at it and asked, "You mean that this Death Gate is safe for now?" Yes. Then why are you making such a big fuss? Zhou Xuanji was furious. He suddenly felt that the white dragon was pretending to be innocent. It must be scheming. It was teasing him on purpose. I was shocked too, the white dragon said pitifully. Zhou Xuanji threw a stare and asked, Then what do you think I should do with it? I'm not sure either. Why don't you throw it away? The white dragon replied. So casual? Zhou Xuanji frowned. This guy was unreliable indeed. He looked at the supreme heaven dome in the distance and thought, should I just give the main monarch door to the supreme heaven dome? No. What if this was the ancestor lord's scheme? They might want to take this opportunity to possess supreme heaven. With supreme heaven's physical body, the ancestor lord's spirit could rule over all living beings. Or was he going to tell the supreme heavens the truth? Zhou Xuanji sat down and began to think. The white dragon did not disturb him, but wandered around as though it was looking for something. For the next day, Zhou Xuanji did not speak. There was no night here. Other than them, Zhou Xuanji could not see any other imprisoned beings. The other beings were massaging supreme heaven's legs and shoulders. Silence. No one finished their words. The world was in deathly silence. The next day, supreme heaven, Zhou Xuanji cried out involuntarily. Do you remember the Master Emperor door? His voice resounded across the sea of clouds. After he spoke, the world fell into deathly silence again. There was a sense of pressure as though a storm was brewing. Supreme heaven did not move and did not seem to hear him. Zhou Xuanji hesitated. Should he shout again? At this moment, a pair of golden eyes appeared in front of him, staring at him coldly. Zhou Xuanji immediately took out the Master Emperor door and said, Its owner said that you would be able to recognize this door. The golden eye didn't reply. It continued to stare at him, not even looking at the main emperor's door. Zhou Xuanji's heart jolted. Could it be that the First Lord's spirit had tricked him? After a long while, the voice of the boundless heavens resounded. How about giving this door to me? Zhou Xuanji said hesitantly, This might be the death gate. I know. Do as you wish. The golden eye burst forth with resplendent golden light and directly put away the main emperor door. Then the golden eye disappeared. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. That's it. Why won't you let us go? Zhou Xuanji frowned again. He could only wait. The primogenitor spirit was once sealed in the Master Emperor's gate by him. Now, it could be said that it had left him and fallen into the hands of the boundless heavens. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt relaxed. He finally got rid of this hot potato. The white dragon came over and said, Let's escape. The barrier around us has disappeared. Disappeared? Zhou Xuanji turned around and saw the golden bolts of lightning dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this, Zhou Xuanji immediately flew toward the horizon. If the boundless heavens suddenly changed its mind, it would be bad. The white dragon quickly followed behind him. After they were far away from the boundless heavens, the white dragon suddenly attached itself to Zhou Xuanji's back and brought him out of this realm. Zhou Xuanji's body trembled. The indescribable space-time tremor made his body extremely uncomfortable. It was hard to imagine how sturdy the space-time boundary here was. Even he, who was at the eternal realm, felt uncomfortable, let alone other living beings. The discomfort soon ended. Zhou Xuanji's vision blurred. The next second, a vast, green land appeared before his eyes. He was falling from the sky and smashing toward the ground. There was still a flight restriction here. The white dragon was gone. Zhou Xuanji quickly adjusted his posture. He descended faster and faster. Boom! He landed on the peak of a huge mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall. His feet stepped on a mountain peak, causing it to crack open, and countless cracks extended downwards. Next, a deafening explosion occurred. The entire towering mountain was pulverized. Zhou Xuanji fell down with the stone rain. He landed on a pile of rocks, safe and sound. He looked up in all directions, trying to find the white dragon, but he could not sense its aura. Strange? Why did it disappear? Could it be that something happened just now and it abandoned me ahead of time? Zhou Xuanji thought with a frown. He dashed toward a direction. The white dragon was unfathomable. It would surely find him. Rather than being confused, it was better to look for serendipity nearby. In a pale space, the Ancestor Lord's spirit hovered. A pair of golden eyes was in front of it. Both sides were silent. No one broke the silence. Boom! A bolt of red lightning suddenly struck down and landed between the two of them. The boundless heaven's voice came. "Do you really not have anything to say to me?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit sighed. "I'm already in this state. What else is there to say? You owe me, and you intend to brush it off like this? Do you believe that I will crush your remnant soul?" The boundless heaven's voice came again. Its tone was filled with extreme hatred and anger. The Ancestor Lord's spirit was silent. The golden eyes that represented the boundless heavens narrowed suddenly. Boom! A horrifying golden ocean swept over and engulfed the Ancestor Lord's spirit. The Ancestor Lord's spirit was like a candle flame in a violent gale that could be extinguished at any moment. "You want to kill your teacher?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit asked with gritted teeth. "Tell me, where is my sovereign's serendipity?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit roared with a low voice. The Ancestor Lord's spirit mocked. "Your sovereign's serendipity? Wasn't it given to you by me?" The Ancestor Lord's spirit did not reply. The golden eyes continued to stare at it with hatred. "It has already turned into a sword. I have been sealed for countless years and do not know where it is. You have to find it yourself," the Ancestor Lord's spirit said. "A sword?" The Ancestor Lord frowned. Not to mention the endless universe, there were countless swords in the eternal divine gate. How could he find the sovereign's serendipity? His first reaction was that he was fooled. You should know about the little fellow from before. That's why you didn't kill it. It is also searching for that sword. It might represent one of your senior brothers, or that existence that cannot be recognized. Whoever finds that sword will be able to grasp the sovereign's serendipity and regain control of everything, the Ancestor Lord's spirit said. The Ancestor Lord's spirit's eyes flashed. "The gate of death has fallen into the gate of life. I hope that you can combine them and purify all the heart demon imprints in the gate of death." Hearing this, the Ancestor Lord looked up and said, "Do you know what the consequences of doing this will be?" Chapter 1075. Fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. If you want to achieve a higher position, you must bear all of this. The Ancestor Lord's spirit's voice came again, which displeased Supreme Heaven. He mocked. "You're always like this, trying to shirk your responsibilities. You're the Ancestor Lord of eternal glory indeed." The Ancestor Lord's spirit was silent. At this moment, the pair of golden eyes of the supreme firmament suddenly shot out two beams of golden light, directly smashing the main emperor door into pieces. Zhou Xuanji walked slowly in the majestic forest. It had been 6 hours since he came to this world. He did not find an artifact with a spirit ocean, which made him frustrated. Could it be that those artifacts belonged to Supreme Heaven's world? If he were to meditate and cultivate bitterly, it would be too unbearable. Zhou Xuanji thought as he walked forward. He wanted to find a place to sit down and cultivate for a while. He could not keep running around. At this moment, he suddenly sensed a familiar aura. Although it was faint, he still sensed it. Gujuagio. That guy came to the Eternal God Gate long ago, and he encountered him in this world. Zhou Xuanji hesitated a little and decided to talk to Gujuagio. Although the two had a blood feud, they got to know each other after a fight. They were both endless overlords, so they could talk. Half an hour later, Zhou Xuanji found Gujuagio beside a massive lake. Gujuagio was sitting facing the lake. Strands of visible heat surrounded his body, and the lake water before him was boiling. Zhou Xuanji walked toward him slowly, without hiding his aura. "I thought you were not coming?" Gujuagio asked with his back facing him. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "I was too careful. The entire endless universe is attracted by the Eternal God Gate. Even if I don't come, I can't change anything." He came to Gujuagio's back, about 10 meters away. Sensing Gujuagio's horrifying aura, he was shocked in his heart. How many years has it been? This guy has grown, so much more powerful. It seems like he has already attained the eternal realm. Zhou Xuanji was terrified. If he came later, wouldn't Gu Juejiao be much more powerful than him? At that time, Western Infinity would surely make a comeback and attack the Sword Emperor Divine Court. Are you curious about how I became so strong? Gu Juejiao asked. Zhou Xuanji did not feel awkward and asked, I just came here. It seems that every realm is different. I encountered the supreme firmament in the upper realm and almost died. The opportunity there was seized by the supreme firmament. Gu Juejiao suddenly turned his head. He was surprised and asked, Supreme firmament? The legendary little disciple of the founding master? Zhou Xuanji nodded. He did not expect Gu Juejiao to have heard of it. It seemed like the Western Limitless had a very deep foundation, being able to come into contact with the history of the limitless universe. Gu Juejiao frowned and murmured, Luckily, I didn't go up, or I would have died. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said with a smile, I won't die. Boundless Heaven's hobby is different. He briefly described what had happened before. As for the white dragon, he did not mention a word about it. After hearing this, Gu Juejiao sighed and said, As expected of the ancient sages, they are broad-minded. Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes. He really knew how to boast. Did this guy think that the supreme firmament could hear him? The sovereign's serendipity that I mentioned before. Are you willing to go with me? Gu Juejiao glanced at Zhou Xuanji and asked indifferently. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. It seemed like this guy did not have the confidence to obtain the sovereign's serendipity alone. Since he was already here, he might as well cooperate with him. Okay, you already have a clue? Zhou Xuanji asked. Gu Juejiao got up immediately with a proud smile. I found it 30 years ago. I covered the area, and no one could find it. Since you found it, why didn't you obtain the sovereign's serendipity? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. There must be danger. Gu Juejiao said helplessly. The sovereign serendipity is protected by a stone statue. If you just get close, it will not alarm the stone statue. But the sovereign serendipity is inside the stone statue. Once you touch it or the sovereign serendipity, the stone statue will revive. If I was not careful enough and tried to use my clone, I might have been destroyed. At the mention of this matter, he revealed a look of lingering fear. So that's it. Bring me to see it. Zhou Xuanji said straightforwardly. Okay. The two moved out immediately. Along the way, Gu Juejiao began to talk about his encounters over the years. It turned out that he was not in this realm from the beginning. He explored 9 realms in total and was surrounded by danger. Finally, he obtained eternity with a gem that contained eternal will. He called it the Eternity Gem. The Eternity Gem was formed by the will left behind by the previous eternal beings. Although it did not contain massive power, it could guide living beings to the eternal realm. Gu Juejiao's cultivation was already outstanding. With just a little guidance, he could soar into the sky. Zhou Xuanji immediately remembered it. If he could get a few Eternity Gems, the Sword Emperor Divine Court would soar. Don't even think about it. After so many years, I've only found one, Gu Juejiao said. He had also thought about Zhou Xuanji's idea. 12 hours later, the two stopped on a cliff. Below them was a boundless wasteland. At the end of the horizon was a towering tree that connected the sky and the earth. The tree's leaves were green, and many flying beasts were circling it. The beasts that could not be affected by the flight restriction were definitely not simple. Seems like someone else found it, Zhou Xuanji said with a faint smile. Following his gaze, a white-robed man was walking on the wasteland to the east. Zhou Xuanji noticed the sword in the white-robed man's hand. Could he be the one that the white dragon was looking for? No, there were many people who used swords. Moreover, it was in a scabbard. He was not sure if it was a saber or a sword. Gu Juejiao frowned and said, Let's use our duplicates first. After that, he sent out a duplicate. Zhou Xuanji also sent out a duplicate. The 2 duplicates immediately jumped off the cliff and ran toward the towering tree that was as massive as the creation god mountain. Once they moved, the white-robed man noticed them too. The white-robed man frowned. He did not expect there to be other living beings nearby, and they were all eternal beings. He immediately drew his saber. His saber was perfectly straight and looked like a sword. He did not attack Zhou Xuanji or Gu Juejiu, but sped up toward the towering tree. The three began to compete in speed. Zhou Xuanji entered godly blankness straight away. He turned into a stream of purple light and dashed forward, trying to overtake the white-robed man. At this moment, the white-robed man's body suddenly spun and turned into a horizontal tornado. He wreaked havoc and left a long ravine along the way. Gu Juejiu's body burned with a flame aura as he sped up continuously. The three of them created such a huge commotion that the flying beasts swooped down toward them. All sorts of strange screeches resounded across the sky. Countless saber chi shot out from the tornado, formed by the white-robed man wantonly. The flying beasts' blood splattered everywhere, and some were crushed into minced meat on the spot. It was extremely domineering. Chapter 1076. Zhou Xuanji relied on godly forlorn mode, and no beast could touch him. He did not fly too quickly, but followed Gu Juejiu's clone. Only Gu Juejiu knew where the sovereign serendipity was after all. The towering tree in front of them was massive. As they got closer, they could sense how majestic the tree was. It was like looking up to a great mountain. Although Gu Juejiu was just a clone, he was very powerful and was not stopped at all. The white-robed man was powerful too. The three of them advanced together. They came to the towering tree. They soared up together. This leap caused the ground to shatter. "Follow me," Gu Juejiu said. Zhou Xuanji did the same, even without him saying so. The white-robed man glanced at Gu Juejiu, but did not pursue him. Instead, he flew toward another direction. Gu Juejiu smiled mockingly. He led Zhou Xuanji around the tree trunk and flew upward. About 20 breaths later, the two landed in a tree hole. The hole was dark and bottomless. It's inside. Gu Juejiu took a deep breath and said, "Why don't we go in directly?" Zhou Xuanji asked, "Wait, the mechanisms here are ever-changing. I can't tell if it's an innate restriction or a spell formation," Gu Juejiu replied. He flipped his right hand, took out a rock, and threw it into the hole. The sound of the rock rolling down the slope could be heard clearly, but the sound soon stopped. Boom! The entire tree trunk began to shake violently, as though a massive creature was about to charge out from the tree hole. Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiu's expressions changed drastically. They quickly dodged. A wave of horrifying blue flames swept out, which shook everyone's heart. It looked like it could burn the sky, but the leaves were not lit up, as though the blue flames had no temperature. After the flames died down, the two returned to the tree hole. They looked down but still could not see anything. "What about now?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Gu Juejiu took out another rock and threw it down. A violent gale blew toward them, and they dodged again. This gale was extremely horrifying. It contained a powerful corrosive power that could be sensed even from a distance away. After the gale subsided, Zhou Xuanji did not get closer. He watched Gu Juejiu continue to probe. The cycle repeated itself. After a few hundred rounds, Gu Juejiu let out a long breath and said, "Everything should be fine now. We can go down." Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He really wanted to know which immoral person made so many restrictive mechanisms. The two of them entered the tree hole and quickly flew downwards. Through the darkness, light appeared below. At the end, a well-lit underground palace appeared before Zhou Xuanji's eyes. The stone walls and tree trunks were inlaid with gems of various colors, illuminating the entire underground palace. Below them was a lake, and in the middle of the lake was a piece of land. A stone statue stood on the land. The stone statue looked like a human, but not a human. It looked more like an ape. The ape was holding a purple crystal the size of a head. This crystal was in the shape of a cube. It was sparkling and translucent, and there were countless tiny specks of light inside. It looked like a miniature starry sky. Is that the opportunity of supremacy? So it's actually like this. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He always thought that the sovereign serendipity was in the form of light. Gujuagio's eyes were filled with passion. He held back his excitement and said, "If we get the sovereign's serendipity, we can unify the endless universe. The opportunity is right before our eyes. If we get it, we can stand shoulder to shoulder with the ancient sovereign or even the illusory primogenitor lord." Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "The key is how to get it." As soon as he saw the stone statue of the ape, he was inexplicably terrified. His instincts told him not to get close. This horror made it difficult for him to possess the purple crystal. "I called you here to think of a way together. Don't just ask me. Did I ask you to come and share the serendipity directly?" Gujuagio snorted coldly. Zhou Xuanji rubbed his chin and began thinking. The two of them circled around the ape stone statue. The underground palace returned to silence. He thought about it for a few days, until an uninvited guest barged in. It was the white-robed man whom he met earlier. Seeing him, Gujuagio's face turned dark, and a murderous aura exploded from him. The white-robed man said, "You can't get it. Why don't you work together with me? Or else, we can only watch." "Do you have a way?" Gujuagio said unpleasantly. "Of course I do. I come from the eternal god race and have a deep understanding of the sovereign's serendipity. I might have a way," the white-robed man replied calmly. After that, he flipped his left hand, and a bead that was burning with flames appeared. "What are you trying to do?" Gujuagio asked with a frown. The white-robed man replied, "This is a past and present bead. It can restore everything that happened here in the past. As long as we understand the origin of this stone statue, we will know how to break it." The flame bead flew toward the ape stone statue. Gujuagio wanted to stop it, but he had no choice. He might as well take a look. The flame bead stopped on the ape stone statue's head. Flames billowed, and a wave of radiance spread out. Next, many illusions appeared in the underground palace. The illusions changed extremely quickly, and the scenes were dazzling. Zhou Xuanji and Gujuagio looked at them seriously. Soon, Gujuagio's expression changed. His body trembled as though he saw something horrifying. Just when Zhou Xuanji was about to ask, the illusion stopped suddenly. He saw a silhouette walking up to the ape stone statue. That silhouette was very familiar to him. Sword Emperor. "Isn't this the Sword Emperor who taught me the exterminating Tao in the future? Hold on. Could it be that the era of the Sword Emperor was not the future but the past? But that's not right. The original owner was the earliest existence. There was no legend of the Sword Emperor." The Sword Emperor cried silently at the ape stone statue. His posture seemed hysterical, as though he was complaining about something. Next, the Sword Emperor knelt down and cried bitterly. Finally, the purple crystal in the ape stone statue's hand sucked the Sword Emperor away. The illusions continued to change. He saw another silhouette. This person was also someone he was familiar with. His son, Zhou Tianhua. Zhou Tianhua walked up to the ape stone statue with his sword. He opened his mouth, but no one knew what he was saying. After a while, he suddenly raised his sword and pointed it at the ape stone statue. The scene became blurry. Zhou Tianhua stabbed the ape stone statue with his sword. Next, the purple crystal burst into light and engulfed him. All the illusions came to an abrupt end. Zhou Xuanji woke up with a start. Gujuagio, who was next to him, was panting heavily. Cold sweat was flowing down his back. The white-robed man, who was not far away, also had an ugly expression. Obviously, they had all seen something that terrified them. Gujuagio looked up at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "What did you see?" Zhou Xuanji replied, "I saw an old friend. I saw myself." Gujuagio said in horror, "Myself?" Zhou Xuanji frowned and looked at him in surprise. The white-robed man took a deep breath and said, "I saw the two of you. You wanted to destroy it, but you were engulfed by it. Strange, did my ancient and present pearl malfunction?" He looked at the ape stone statue again and suddenly felt that it was very strange. Although its eyes were carved in stone, they seemed to be smiling. Chapter 1077. It should be the inner demon. It let us see what we are most afraid of. Gu Juejiao analyzed. Zhou Xuanji heard him and felt that it made sense. The scene just now really scared him. The appearance of the Sword Emperor made him doubt the reality of the space-time he was in and doubt his own existence. The appearance of Zhou Tanhua made him afraid that his flesh and blood had encountered an accident. It might not be true. Perhaps this was a supreme being's fortuitous opportunity's defensive restriction, causing those who wanted to seize it to feel fear and give up. The white-clothed man frowned and said, "If that's the case, then I'm not sure how we should seize it." Gu Juejiao glared at him and shouted, "If that's the case, please leave. If you can't help, then scram." He did not want to share the supreme opportunity with another person. "You guys need my power. Otherwise, you guys won't be able to obtain it. You guys don't even dare to use your true bodies to come here. How are you going to obtain the Paragon's fortuitous encounter?" The white-robed man shook his head. "Are you the deity?" Gu Juejiao asked impatiently. "That's right." The man in white nodded. Gu Juejiao and Zhou Xuanji were both stunned. Was this guy not afraid of death? How dare he use his real body? The white-robed man continued, "My name is Huang Bai, and my original body has already been refined into this white robe. It is sufficient for me to be in an invincible position. I will stay behind and help you block all attacks. As a reward, we will share the Paragon's great opportunity together. The Paragon's great opportunity doesn't belong to just one person. You should all be clear about this." His main body was refined into white clothes. Was there such a thing? Zhou Xuanji looked at Gu Juejiao with a strange expression. Gu Juejiao was the one who discovered the sovereign's opportunity, so it was up to him to decide. However, once the danger of the sovereign's fortuitous opportunity was over, the three of them would probably have to fight it out. Gu Juejiao definitely wanted to take everything for himself. Obtaining a supreme opportunity was for the sake of dominating the boundless universe. How could there be an equal division? Gu Juejiao thought for a while and nodded. Meanwhile, outside the towering tree on the cliff, Gu Juejiao's original body said to Zhou Xuanji's original body, "Let's get ready to go at any time." Zhou Xuanji nodded. He knew that the reason why Gu Juejiao told him this was not because he was close to Gu Juejiao, but because Gu Juejiao was afraid that he could not defeat Huang Bai. Huang Bai landed in front of the human ape statue and started to walk around it, observing it carefully. At first glance, it seemed as if he knew a lot about the stone ape statues. Is there something wrong with the eternal god race's people? Or is this the first time they've left their race? Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. Then, he turned his attention to the stone statue of the ape. After thinking about it, he suggested, "Why don't we forcefully take it and see what the consequences are? Even if this stone statue can be revived, we can still feel its strength." Subconsciously, Gu Juejiao wanted to scold him for being an idiot. But on second thought, he realized that he could use the stone statue to kill Huang Bai. Zhou Xuanji was not as cunning as Gu Juejiao thought. He really wanted to see the power of the stone ape statue. Huang Bai had no objections. That was what he thought as well. He turned to the stone statue of the ape and reached out to grab the purple crystal. His hand had just touched the purple crystal. Boom! A terrifying aura directly sent him flying. The entire underground palace shook violently, and the stone statue of the ape slowly stood up. It held the purple crystal tightly in its right hand and raised its left hand with its fingers facing outwards. Zhou Xuanji sensed danger. He quickly created 2 swords of light and prepared for battle. Gu Juejiao also used his divine ability. Strands of intense flames wrapped around his body, and his aura was imposing. Even though it was just a clone, it was powerful. They were eternal beings, after all. Swoosh! 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 Numerous stone snakes shot out from the stone statue's fingers toward Zhou Xuanji and the others like a rainstorm. Huang Bai drew his saber to defend. Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiao also began to defend. The 2 swords were as fast as lightning. Zhou Xuanji's stone snakes were cut down as soon as they got close. However, there was no end to the stone snakes. and their numbers increased instead. Soon, a stone snake bit Zhou Xuanji's neck. He instinctively used his eternal will to defend. In the end, he was petrified without any change. Once he was petrified, Gu Juejiu was petrified as well. Only Huang Bai was still resisting. Huang Bai appeared to be very relaxed. He was still getting closer to the stone statue of the ape. If it's only this much, he mumbled to himself and immediately sped up. At this moment, the stone statue moved suddenly. Boom! Huang Bai was hit in the abdomen by the stone statue's knee. Next, he was sent flying and crashed into the mountain wall. The underground palace shook violently as though it would collapse at any moment. Huang Bai opened his eyes with great difficulty. Even with the protection of his main body, that collision made him feel as though his soul was about to leave his body. Such power! Huang Bai gritted his teeth and dodged quickly. Boom! The stone statue smashed toward him like a cannonball. It smashed into the mountain wall, where he was just standing, and created a large hole. Following this, the stone statue continued to chase after Huang Bai. Huang Bai was helpless. He quickly came to Gu Juejiu's side and pressed his right hand on Gu Juejiu's shoulder before disappearing. He came behind Zhou Xuanji and pressed his shoulder as well. The two of them immediately stopped being petrified. They immediately ran away and stayed away from the stone statue. This is what you wanted to see. Gu Juejiu roared at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji ignored him and stared at the stone statue. The stone statue charged over quickly, and its target was Huang Bai. Huang Bai slashed with his saber, and his saber chi exploded like a gigantic lotus toward the stone statue. A deafening explosion came. The stone statue charged out unscathed and slammed into Huang Bai again. Huang Bai was slammed into the lake below by the stone statue. Zhou Xuanji came to the spot where the stone statue was and found a notch. More accurately, it was a cave entrance. It was pitch black below, and he could not see what was below. He immediately dove in. Gu Juejiu's expression changed and dove in as well. Only Huang Bai was still being beaten. Damn! Huang Bai noticed their actions and gritted his teeth. As he dove down, Zhou Xuanji continued to increase his speed. He swept the eternal will downward, but he could not find the bottom. How deep was this cave? Could there really be a sovereign's serendipity hidden down there? Gu Juejiu's voice came from behind. He thought that the purple crystal in the stone statue's hand was the sovereign's serendipity. But in reality, no one knew what the sovereign's serendipity looked like. Zhou Xuanji replied, I'm not sure. It might not be, because that guy did not chase after us. His reaction was strange. If there was a sovereign serendipity hidden down there, the stone statue guarding the sovereign serendipity would stop them at all costs and not focus on Huang Bai. Gu Juejiu frowned. He suddenly had a bad feeling. Outside, Zhou Xuanji's original body asked Gu Juejiu, Say, how did you know that this is the sovereign's serendipity? Gu Juejiu was a little stunned and said hesitantly, It should be here. My intuition told me that the moment I saw the crystal, I felt that it was the sovereign's serendipity. Zhou Xuanji, end of chapter. Chapter 1078. After entering the bottomless pit, Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiu continued to fall. This fall lasted for several hours. They did not reach the bottom. Gu Juejiu could not help but say, Could this be a restrictive spell formation? There's no end to it. They cannot go back even if they wanted to. The Eternal Divine Gate forbade flying after all. This might be a trap. Let's wait and see. If it doesn't work, we will give up on our current clones, Zhou Xuanji replied. They were just clones anyway, so it was not a big deal. Gu Juejiu nodded. They continued to fall. At the same time, their original bodies sent out clones toward the underground palace in the huge tree. When the clones arrived, Huang Bai was still fighting with the ape statue. Noticing their arrival, Huang Bai immediately cried out, Come and help me. The destroyed parts cannot be recovered. This is its weakness. Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiu heard him and attacked immediately. Boom! Zhou Xuanji, slashed at the ape statue. Sword chi exploded and shook the underground palace. However, the ape statue could not even leave a single piece of stone. Too hard. Zhou Xuanji cursed in his heart. Is this a weakness? This is its strength. It was precisely because the stone ape statue was too hard and had boundless strength that it was so terrifying. If he could destroy it, he would not have to go through so much trouble. Not only Zhou Xuanji, but Gu Juejiao also cursed out loud. How do we destroy it? We can't win. Let's run. Gu Juejiao had already decided to give up. After that, he crashed into the ape statue and was blasted apart. Zhou Xuanji no longer dodged. As soon as he stopped, the stone statue of the ape swung its leg and kicked his doppelganger until it exploded. Far away, outside the huge tree, Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiao stood on the cliff with a frown. Forget it. Maybe it's not the sovereign's serendipity. Even if it is, we are not powerful enough. Let's not force it. Zhou Xuanji sighed. At the same time, he released his clone from the bottomless pit and gave up completely. Gu Juejiao gritted his teeth and could only give up. He was in despair. It's too difficult. How can I obtain the sovereign's serendipity? Gu Juejiao was driven mad. He suddenly wanted to destroy this world. Boom! The trunk of the towering tree exploded, and Huang Bai flew out from the billowing smoke and dust. His body was covered in blood, and he was in a sorry state. However, his white robe was undamaged. As soon as he flew out, the giant beasts circling around the towering tree attacked them. Fortunately, his speed was extremely fast. Those giant beasts couldn't catch up to him at all. He quickly landed in front of Zhou Xuanji. Huang Bai wiped off the bloodstains on his face. His expression was unsightly as he said, "Are you sure this is a supreme opportunity? Why do I feel like this is a trap?" Hearing that, Gu Juejiao said angrily, "We didn't ask you to come here. You came here yourself, blindly coming up with ideas, still trying to snatch it by force." In the end, he was as miserable as a dog. Huang Bai was embarrassed. His expression changed between green and red. "Since there is no sovereign serendipity, we should part ways," Zhou Xuanji said. Then, he gave Gu Juejiao a look, indicating that he could leave. Huang Bai was very powerful, and he was also a member of the Eternal Gods. It was too dangerous. Gu Juejiao nodded and left with Zhou Xuanji. But Huang Bai caught up with them and said, "Let's go together. I already know how powerful you are, and you did not play any tricks. If the three of us work together, we will have a greater chance of finding the sovereign's serendipity. It's not so easy to get the sovereign's serendipity. Both you and I need help." Zhou Xuanji was indifferent. Gu Juejiao said disdainfully, "We don't need you. If you continue to follow us, don't blame us for being rude." Huang Bai had to stop as his murderous aura burst forth. Looking at their backs, Huang Bai's face was extremely gloomy. Unstoppable region. Countless creatures surrounded the Eternal God Gate, hesitating whether to enter or not. A group of people with powerful auras flew over suddenly. They were Zhou Tanhua, Zhou Shaoxian, Xian Xianghua, Sovereign Hong Chun, and the others. They planned to enter the Eternal God Gate too. Zhou Xuanji had already told them that there was indeed serendipity in the Eternal God Gate. So, Zhou Tanhua spent some time to settle down the Sword Emperor Divine Court before rushing over. "Is that the Eternal God Gate? It's so majestic," Zhou Shaoxian said expectantly. Her eyes were shining. Xiao Jinghong reminded, "Little junior sister, don't act recklessly." Revered teacher said that apart from serendipity, there are also unimaginable dangers inside. "I know, don't worry," Zhou Shaoxian replied casually. Xian Xianghua had the same expression as her, but she was more looking forward to meeting Zhou Xuanji. She felt very unhappy whenever she thought of Zhou Xuanji sneaking into the Eternal God Gate. This brat always left her behind. The group flew into the Eternal God Gate one after another. Their entrance attracted a large number of living beings. Creatures always like to stick together when facing an unknown situation. Only by doing so could they feel more secure. On the plain, Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiao were walking side by side. Each of them was playing with a golden stone in their hands. They had picked it up before, and there was a restriction hidden in the stone. Zhou Xuanji suspected that there might be a spirit sea inside, which was similar to a golden artifact. He was constantly trying to break the restriction. Gu Juejiao muttered, "Why do I feel that something is wrong? Is there any danger inside?" They were all eternal beings. Their eternal wills were enough to destroy any existence in the boundless universe, but they could not break the restriction on this stone. It was too ridiculous. Could be a trap like the stone statue of the ape. Keep it for now. It might be useful later, Zhou Xuanji said with a smile before throwing the golden stone into the supreme storage. Gu Juejiao nodded. At that moment, a terrifying aura came from ahead. The two of them looked up and saw a figure dashing over from the horizon. He was extremely fast. He was like a bolt of lightning, and he came before them in the blink of an eye. Boom! The two of them were heavily hit in the abdomen, and their bodies flew out like cannonballs. Zhou Xuanji gritted his teeth and looked over. It was a muscular man with a bare upper body. His hair was messy, and his face was jet black. His skin was bronze, and his muscles were extremely exaggerated. Gu Juejiao punched his head, but he did not stop him. What monster is this? Gu Juejiao was greatly shocked and instinctively looked toward Zhou Xuanji. In the end, Zhou Xuanji entered the spiritless mode and easily escaped. Gu Juejiao cursed inwardly. He quickly channeled his eternal will into his body and forcefully blocked the dark-faced man. Boom! A horrifying black flame burst out of the dark-faced man's body and soared into the sky. It burned Gu Juejiao's body and caused his soul to escape quickly. What flame is this? Gu Juejiao was filled with fear and terror. Before he could say anything, the dark-faced man charged at him again. This time, Gu Juejiao was completely enraged. "Do you really think I can't deal with you?" Gu Juejiao furiously roared. His soul turned into a fiery spear and stabbed out. A line of fire seemed to appear between the heavens and earth. It disappeared in a flash and pierced through the dark-faced man. Chapter 1079. After Gu Juejiao pierced through the black-faced man, he was still angry. A large hole appeared on the dark-faced man's chest, but the injury was rapidly healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. He twisted his neck and continued to attack Gu Juejiao. His speed was also unbelievably fast. Bang! Gu Juejiao's soul was punched away again. After sliding along the ground for dozens of miles, Gu Juejiao stabilized his body with difficulty. Buffed, Gu Juejiao spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt down. His soul body was flickering between light and dark, as if it could be destroyed at any moment. How could this be? This power. Gu Juejiao gritted his teeth and looked at the black-faced man with fear in his eyes. The other party's strength made him shudder. At this moment, the dark-faced man mixed in and charged toward Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji was already prepared for battle. He entered the eternal state straight away, and his body radiated with a brilliant divine light. Numerous swords of light appeared around him, overlapping into a three-dimensional sword flower. All the divine swords fused into his body, and two long swords appeared in his hands. His aura was terrifying. He immediately entered his strongest state to face the dark-faced man. Because this guy was very strong, it was strong enough for him to face it with his full strength. Bang! A silver radiance exploded from Zhou Xuanji's body and swept across the heavens and earth. The dark-faced man was slowed down by the silver light. In an instant, the world was occupied by countless sword shadows. Delusion, sword C. The dark-faced man was only slowed down, but he was not stopped. He continued to charge toward Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji swung his sword, and countless sword shadows shot toward the dark-faced man. Boom, boom, boom. The ground was bombarded. The dark-faced man began running toward Zhou Xuanji while dodging left and right. Even when he was hit by the sword shadows, he was not injured at all. Like a bolt of black lightning, it sped away. Zhou Xuanji quickly swung his sword, and massive silver Buddhas were slashed out one after another. They looked like after-images, and all of them crashed into the dark-faced man. The black-faced man was incomparably domineering. He relied on his fists to smash the giant silver Buddhas one after another. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before Zhou Xuanji. No matter how powerful Zhou Xuanji was, he directly punched out. Bang! This punch landed on Zhou Xuanji's face and sent him flying. The dark-faced man continued to pursue Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji suddenly disappeared while he was flying backward. Ethereal state. Just when he entered the pale space, Zhou Xuanji instinctively turned around. Another punch. The dark-faced man sent Zhou Xuanji flying out from spiritless mode. Zhou Xuanji smashed through the ground, kicking up clouds of dust. The black-faced man appeared out of thin air. Just as he was about to land on the ground, a huge flaming palm that seemed as if it was about to break the vault of heaven came slamming down. Countless vengeful spirits swayed in the flames, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. The dark-faced man punched out. The terrifying fist wind directly tore the huge flaming palm into pieces. Gu Juejiu's expression changed drastically. Before he could react, he was blown away by the palm wind. Just as he came back to his senses, the black-faced man descended from the sky, stepping on him as he fell to the ground. The ground collapsed, and rubble flew everywhere. In the dust, the black-faced man raised his right fist and was ready to kill Gu Juejiu. "Wait, you can kill me, but you have to give me a reason." Gu Juejiu shouted angrily. With his level of cultivation, if not for the restrictions of the Eternal God Gate, he could destroy an entire universe with a single thought. But facing the black-faced man, he was beaten to the point where he had no strength to fight back. "You took His Majesty's treasure and ran away," the black-faced man said with a hoarse voice. Gu Juejiu was stunned and said in astonishment, "You can speak? Wait, I didn't take it. It's him, and I was never captured by Wushang Heaven." He pushed the blame to Zhou Xuanji straight away. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji, who had just climbed out of the cave, heard his words and was speechless. What a traitor. The black-faced man looked down at Gu Juejiu and said calmly, "It's not Wushang Heaven. My Majesty is Great Emperor Demonic Yong." Gu Juejiu was stunned again. He immediately took out the golden stone that he picked up earlier and cried out, "Is it this one? Take it back." After that, he threw the golden stone to the black-faced man. The black-faced man caught it and turned to leave. Seeing him walking over, Zhou Xuanji immediately took out his own golden stone and threw it back to him. After the black-faced man caught it, he looked back at Gu Juejiu and then at Zhou Xuanji. He seemed to be hesitating whether to kill the two of them or not. Zhou Xuanji and Gu Juejiu were on tenterhooks. "Forget it. Since you have just arrived, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't try to find the sovereign's serendipity. Extreme serendipity also represents extreme misfortune." The black-faced man left these words and left. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Was he bluffing them, or was he serious? Gu Juejiu heaved a long sigh. He came to Zhou Xuanji's side quickly and mumbled, "Great Emperor Demonic Yong. Where have I heard of him?" He began to think hard. Soon, he opened his eyes wide and cried out while clapping his hands, "So it's him. How can it be?" "Who?" "Gu's sovereign's teacher." Zhou Xuanji was shocked. Gu's sovereign's teacher? How ancient was that almighty being? He did not doubt it, but shook his head and said, "The eternal divine gate is too dangerous. Let's not grow more powerful first. We are not qualified to find the sovereign's serendipity yet." Having heard this, Gu Juejiu's face turned ugly, but he still nodded. "Let's work together. At least we can take care of each other." Gu Juejiu continued to speak. In order to survive, what was taking revenge for his son? He had many sons anyway. Zhou Xuanji hesitated for a while, but did not reject him. Take the situation just now, for example. If he was alone, he might have been killed instantly. Although Gu Juejiu pushed the blame to Zhou Xuanji in the end, He did not run away, but fought alongside him. But if he could not defeat Zhou Xuanji, he would have died. And so, the two recovered and continued on their way. With Zhou Xuanji's suggestion, they began to jump down to the lower realm. Each realm had a special world jumping point. There were many world jumping points. They were located in midair. Looking closely, they looked like balls of golden radiance. They jumped down all the way. After jumping 8 realms, the two finally stopped. This realm was extremely hot. The 18 suns shone brightly, and the ground was covered in flames. Even the space was rippling. Zhou Xuanji was pleasantly surprised. Although it was hot, the spiritual qi here was even denser than in the upper realm. Strange, why didn't I pass by here before? Gu Juejiu frowned with a strange expression. Zhou Xuanji landed and began to absorb the spiritual qi here. Gu Juejiu wandered around. After walking for hundreds of miles, Gu Juejiu suddenly stopped and opened his eyes wide. All sorts of ancient swords were pierced into the ground in front of him. They were densely packed and extended to the horizon. Could it be another treasure of a powerful cultivator? Gu Juejiu frowned. Even though he was curious, he did not dare to go forward. At this moment, a silhouette dashed over from another direction. That person was wearing white clothes. Huang Bai. Along the way, he pulled out an ancient sword and charged toward Gu Juejiu. "Brother, we meet again. We are fated," Huang Bai said excitedly. Gu Juejiu's expression changed drastically and quickly retreated. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.